Chapter 79. The sudden change startled Emissary Chun, but his years of combat experience made him react instinctively. He had lost the initiative, so he took 2 steps back to avoid the attack. Then he swung his long sword at Chun Fan's arm, leaving a light green trace in the air. Bang! He swung his sword. When the blade touched Chun Fan's arm, Emissary Chun was stunned. He did not feel like he had hit flesh. Instead, he felt like he had hit an old cowhide with an ordinary weapon. Not only did he not exert any force, but he also felt a rebounding force. Zhou Fu's punch missed, and he was hit by Chun Fan's sword. He was shocked again. He thought that after he combined the scripture of Wisdom King and the art of bronze armor, he would have a qualitative leap. He did not expect that Chun Fan would not only dodge but also counterattack. He stared at Emissary Chun and rushed over. This time, he would not pull away from Chun Fan. The four-sword chi from before still made him fearful. At this time, he saw Zhou Fu clearly. He was surprised by the change in Zhou Fu's body. He was a head taller than before, and his whole body was bigger. What made him even more shocked was that Zhou Fu's limbs and chest were bleeding from several sword wounds. He had attacked with all his strength, but there were only a few non-fatal sword wounds. Good boy, what a terrifying hard body skill. Zhou Fu rushed to within 2 steps of Emissary Chun again. He punched out with his bronze-colored fist and said with a grim smile, "The best is yet to come. Take this." Emissary Chun had no time to retreat. His long sword was a little inconvenient because of the distance. His eyes flashed coldly. "Boy, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you practice hard body skills. If hard body skills were useful, why would I, a martial artist, need to forge bones?" Then he held the hilt of his sword with his right hand and punched out with his left hand to meet Zhou Fu's fist. Bang! The explosion of chi shook external Emissary Chun's sleeves and made them flutter. After exchanging a punch, Chen Weisher used the recoil force to turn around and pull away. How could Zhou Fu let him do as he wished? The energy beneath his feet exploded, once again closing the distance between the two of them. He struck out with the rolling stone palm that contained the Wisdom King Devil Suppression Seal, forcing his opponent to counter with a palm strike. Bang! When the two palms collided, the strange inner strength of the Wisdom King Devil Suppressing Seal flowed through the opponent's arm and into his body. After external Emissary Chun felt the internal strength, his face suddenly changed, and he hurriedly urged the vigorous internal strength in his body to expel it. 2 waves of inner strength collided with his shoulder. With a muffled bang, the inner strength of the Wisdom King's Devil-Suppressing Seal was dispersed, but his arm was also injured. In just a short while, the distance between the two of them was only 1 step. When Zhou Fu saw that his opponent was injured, he grinned and continued to attack with his palms, sending out waves of internal strength. Emissary Chun made a decision in an instant. He loosened his right hand, threw away his sword, and used his palms to fight the enemy. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them quickly exchanged dozens of palms. Emissary Chun's face became extremely ugly, for no other reason than because of Zhou Fu's strange inner strength. He used all of his strength in each of his palms, and used half of it to deal with the inner strength. The remaining half was unable to cause any harm to Zhou Fu. Bastard! External Emissary Chun's heart was burning with anger. Although most of his martial arts were focused on the sword, it did not mean that his martial arts were lacking. As a bone-forging third-stage expert, his martial arts cultivation in the palm, fist, and leg were not low. However, he had just used all of his strength, and had consumed more than half of his internal strength. He had also lost the opportunity to attack, so he was beaten up by Zhou Fu. "Brat, do you really think that I can't fight after losing my weapon?" Emissary Chun slapped away Zhou Fu's palm. His right arm swayed as if it was floating in the water, lightly, but at an extremely fast speed. It struck towards Zhou Fu's chest. Blue wave undercurrent. His internal strength, which he had cultivated for dozens of years, crazily flowed through his palm according to a unique path. Zhou Fu was also very unhappy. The continuous attacks had consumed a lot of his physical strength. After dozens of moves, he had not caused any substantial damage. At this time, he saw that his opponent had taken the initiative to strike him with his palm. Unexpectedly, he wanted to meet force with force. He was immediately overjoyed. If I don't want to hit you hard, then I'll hit you hard. His vigorous chi and blood surged, and his pale, golden internal strength surged, crazily rushing towards his palm. With the support of the Wisdom King's devil-suppressing seal, his rolling stone palm was pushed to the extreme. Boom! The two palms collided. Zhou Fu was stunned at first. He felt that his opponent's palm was empty, as if he had hit a pile of cotton. All of a sudden, a powerful palm energy erupted from his opponent's palm. It was like an undercurrent under the water, suddenly erupting and bombarding Zhou Fu's palm. Die for me! External emissary Chen's eyes were filled with anger. The internal strength in his body gushed out, as if it was free. Zhou Fu's heart was also filled with ruthlessness. He suddenly opened his wide palm and clasped his opponent's palm, holding it tightly like an iron hoop. At the same time, his left hand clenched into a fist, and his right hand pulled his opponent into his embrace. His fists rained down like raindrops. Let's see who dies first. Bastard, let go. Although external emissary Chen relied on his tyrannical internal strength to hit Zhou Fu until his arm was about to break, his muscles and bones were too strong. His 5 fingers dug into the back of his opponent's hand, piercing into the gap between the bones. This intense pain almost caused external emissary Chen to disperse his internal strength. At the same time, his left arm was also blocking Zhou Fu's fist. At this time, the two experts were like rogues in the marketplace, wrestling. Zhou Fu relied on hard body skills and the Wisdom King scripture to raise his physique to a terrifying level. On the other hand, external emissary Liu was at the 3rd level of bone forging. His bones were not as hard as fine iron, but they were not easy to break. At this time, the two were in a deadlock. External emissary Liu blocked Zhou Fu's fists while fighting back. Zhou Fu did not care. With the support of the bronze armor art and the Wisdom King scripture, he only needed to use his full strength. The two wrestled for a while. In the end, external emissary Liu was unable to endure Zhou Fu's internal strength. The strange Wisdom King's demon suppression seal drilled into his body. When he panicked and mobilized his internal strength to surround and suppress it, it was already too late. His internal strength was affected. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he used several internal strength. External emissary Liu sighed. It was over. Boom, boom, boom. Zhou Fu kept punching him until his opponent was on the verge of death and covered in blood. Zhou Fu almost stopped. Huff, huff, Zhou Fu panted and dispersed the inner chi that was constantly reinforcing bronze armor. His body instantly shrank and returned to the size he was when he entered the place. He looked at external emissary Chen on the ground and sighed. After being punched so many times, your bones are not broken. Is this the bone forging realm? External emissary Chen, who was still breathing, twitched. His bones were hard, but that did not mean his internal organs were tough. Viscera training was something that could only be done in the blood-changing realm. He was still unable to do it. You? Zhou Fu nodded and slapped his palm on his opponent's throat. After a muffled sound, a large amount of blood flowed out from his opponent's mouth and nose. Zhou Fu turned around and looked to the other side. At this time, the courtyard was empty. Everyone had already run away. Hide and seek. If I find you, you will die. Chapter 80. Zhou Fu arrived outside a room. This was the 2nd room he had found, and it made him feel like he was opening a blind box. He reached out and placed his hand on the wooden door. He gently pushed, but the door didn't open. Someone was blocking it from the inside. Is this a reminder because you're afraid that I won't be able to find it? Zhou Fu chuckled and increased the force of pushing the door bit by bit. Creak, crackle, the sound of wood breaking continued, and finally, with a bang, the door bolt broke and the door opened wide. The sun had already set, and the room was very dim, but it was enough for Zhou Fu to see the situation in the room clearly. The furnishings in the room were very simple. There was a large bed, a wardrobe, and some tables and chairs. This was probably the room where ordinary gang members or servants slept. Zhou Fu walked toward the wardrobe. He purposely made his footsteps heavy. Bang! Bang! He stopped in front of the wardrobe. At this time, there was a trembling sound from the wardrobe. "You're here!" Before the voice fell, Zhou Fu's large hand suddenly broke open the wardrobe and reached in. In the midst of a scream, his right hand first grabbed and then pulled. The wardrobe broke open with a bang, and at the same time, a figure was thrown out by Zhou Fu and landed heavily on the bed opposite the wardrobe. The bed that the servants slept on was made of stones. The fall was not a light one, filled with fear and pain. The man spoke very quickly and stuttered, Don't kill me. I know where Steward Liu is. I know where he is." The man looked at the large hand that stopped in front of him in horror. He didn't doubt that if he spoke any slower, his life would be over. Hearing the man's words, Zhou Fu was of course interested. Today, he had killed his way into the Red Sea Gang's territory. One was to vent his anger, and the other was to get money. Since the Scarlet Sea Gang was the first to snatch his money, he naturally had to snatch it back. Moreover, it was the kind that included interest. "You know where he is?" "I know." "Got it." The man nodded his head so quickly that his cheeks started to tremble. "I saw just now. Steward Liu entered the room next door." "It was right next door." "Please spare my life, Your Excellency. If what you said is true, don't worry. I won't kill you." "Thank you, sir." "Thank you, my lord. I'm telling the truth." Zhou Fu grabbed the man's neck with his left hand and lifted him up. He pointed at the wall beside him and asked, "Is that room behind the wall?" "Yes. If I find out that you're lying, I'll crush your bones." "I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare." Zhou Fu stomped his foot and his energy burst out. His right hand was wrapped in energy as he punched out. Boom! The energy exploded, and smoke and dust rose into the air. Zhou Fu punched a big hole in the partition wall. He waved his hand, and his energy surged, blowing away the smoke and dust around him. Looking at the cabinets and the single bed in the room, he was too lazy to verify them one by one. He threw the terrified Red Sea gang member aside. Anyway, the other party was seriously injured and couldn't run away. Zhou Fu bent down and picked up a few broken bricks and threw them at the suspicious places. Under his immense strength, these bricks were like cannonballs, smashing the furniture that could hide people in the room into pieces. Boom! As the last box was smashed, the room quieted down. Zhou Fu turned to look at the young man, who was so scared that he wet himself. He asked expressionlessly, "Where is he?" The young man trembled, and his voice was very sharp. "I saw him come in. I really saw him. Really." He repeated it over and over again, waving his hands. "Now you tell me, where is he?" "He's..." The young man breathed rapidly, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He pointed at the beam and said, "Steward Liu must be on the roof. On the roof." Whoosh! The sound of a sharp weapon piercing the air was heard. Puff! The young man trembled, and his hands covered his throat. He opened his mouth, and red blood flowed out from between his fingers. After a few moans, the arms covering his throat fell down, and he was no longer breathing. Zhou Fu looked at the roof. It was dark there. He said, "Come down." The room fell silent. Whoosh! Boom! A stone broke through the air and slammed into the roof. Dozens of tiles flew out, and the scattered starlight outside the room shone in through the hole in the roof. Bang! A black shadow jumped down from the roof. It was Steward Liu. Zhou Fu looked at him and grinned. "I thought you didn't know martial arts." Steward Liu snorted. "What's the difference? Even foreign emissary Chun died tragically at your hands. With my cultivation level, in front of you, it's the same as not having it. Oh, you can see it clearly. I thought you would resist." From the beginning to the end, Zhou Fu did not look at the young man who showed him the way. Steward Liu stared at Zhou Fu's face. At this time, the ghost mask was broken, and about a quarter of it had disappeared. "What do you want to do?" "What I want to do." The corner of his mouth under the mask curled up slightly, and the anger in his heart surged again. Zhou Fu's figure suddenly rushed towards Steward Liu. He was very fast now, and before Steward Liu could react, he was already beside him. Wisdom, King, Demon, Suppression Seal. Bang! Steward Lu spat out a mouthful of blood. His whole body was sent flying by Zhou Fu. He crashed through the door and window and fell on the stone corridor. Cough, cough. Saliva mixed with blood flowed out. Under the threat of death, Steward Lu was no longer as calm as before. He was still afraid of death. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I know a lot of things. I know the treasury of this hall, and the key is with me, Zhou Fu said. You should have done this earlier. Why were you pretending just now? Tell me, where is Renjin? In the central hall. Steward Lu felt something tighten at the back of his neck, and then his body was lifted up. Show me the way. Go out the left door. Under Steward Lu's lead, Zhou Fu came to the courtyard where the central hall was. At this time, the place was brightly lit. More than 10 braziers were burning, and traces of sparks flew into the sky in the wind. Outside the central hall's door, there was a chair, and a pale but dignified middle-aged man was sitting on it. He was the leader of the Red Sea Gang, Renjin, Hulk Master Ren. Cough, cough. Looks like external emissary Chen won't be coming. Zhou Fu walked to the center of the courtyard and threw Steward Lu away as if he was throwing away trash. It was a loud bang. Steward Lu smashed into the base of the wall. He groaned in pain and then changed into a more comfortable position. First, his ribs were broken by Zhou Fu's great strength, and then his meridians were sealed by the demon suppression seal. He had already given up on thinking about running away. Even if Renjin defeated Zhou Fu, he was finished. No matter what, Zhou Fu came here under his lead. The energy in Zhou Fu's body vibrated again, and his qi and blood surged, and his body grew bigger. Renjin had already stood up, and he held a black spear in his hand. There was no red dot on the spearhead, and the body of the spear was directly connected to the spearhead. Under the illumination of the fire, the spearhead pointed at Zhou Fu flashed with cold light. Even if I'm injured, I'm not someone who can be bullied. Kill. Chapter 81. Bang. In the courtyard, two figures brazenly collided with each other. The force of the collision caused a strong wind to blow, causing the flames on the nearby braziers to sway. Zhou Fu's palms glowed with a bronze color as he alternately slapped the spear. Bang. Bang. The continuous strikes were like a blacksmith's forge, and the sound of golden inscriptions was endless. Kill. The black spear in Renjin's hand kept stabbing forward, and every move was aimed at Zhou Fu's vital points. He kept moving around, maintaining a certain distance from Zhou Fu so that the spear in his hand could deal the most damage. The two exchanged dozens of moves in an instant, and neither could do anything to the other in a short period of time. This kind of battle made Zhou Fu both excited and uncomfortable. He was excited because he could fight with someone like Renjin, who had been famous for many years and whose martial arts and battle experience had reached a certain level. It could increase his experience rapidly. However, when facing such an experienced person, it would be very difficult to fight if he couldn't crush them with his strength. They could always expand their advantage without you noticing. Just like in front of him, every time Zhou Fu slapped away the spear and rushed forward, wanting to rush to the other party's side, there would be a cold light aimed at his vitals. Zhou Fu didn't dare to face such a murderous spear, and the person who used it was an expert. After another dozen moves, Zhou Fu was a little annoyed. He couldn't let this drag on. Kill! He shouted angrily as his blood and qi surged. A large amount of inner strength surged into his palms and hit the spear. Bang! A huge force traveled up the spear. Feeling the change in his opponent's strength, Renjin's arms trembled and a painful expression appeared on his face. The wound caused by the young man in white from the Nine River Sword sect had split open. Even so, his many years of battle experience allowed him to react instinctively. Using the force, Renjin tapped his feet and floated back, landing 3 steps away. Seeing the situation, Zhou Fu was overjoyed. He also remembered what happened during the day. At that moment, he no longer hesitated. He stomped his foot and suddenly charged over. Unexpectedly, just as he took a step forward, all the hair on his body stood on end. With his heart beating wildly, Zhou Fu forcibly stopped his body and stepped into the stone floor. In front of Zhou Fu, a spear tip emitting killing intent stopped there like a bolt of lightning. If Zhou Fu hadn't stopped, he would have been pierced through. Good, good, good. Ren Jin's eyes flickered. Sure enough, you have some skills. No wonder you're able to kill your way into my Red Sea Gang's base. As he spoke, he activated his internal energy to suppress the wound on his arm while recovering his physical strength. Although it sounded very domineering to fight with injuries, only he knew the pain involved. After today's incident, the Red Sea Gang leader was worried that the Nine Rivers Sword Sect would come for revenge, so he transferred some of the elites from various branches in Ning'an City. Otherwise, he would not have allowed Zhou Fu to come to him. I didn't expect you to be able to take so many of my palms, even after suffering such serious injuries during the day. Speaking of this, Zhou Fu licked his lips. He suddenly wanted to try the power of the Wisdom King Demon subduing seal. Since Hall Master Ren is so brave, come and try my palm. Bang! Stone fragments flew in all directions as Zhou Fu's body suddenly moved. He suddenly rushed out. His hands were covered in a copper color, but there was a faint golden light flickering on them. Woo! A low howl of the wind sounded, as if a sandstorm was approaching, giving people a heavy feeling. Oomph! Hearing the strange sound of the wind, Ren Jin's eyes flashed with a trace of heaviness. He activated his internal energy and rushed it to his arms, allowing his wounds to split open again under the impact of the internal energy. Gale! After feeling that something was wrong, Ren Jin growled, and the spear in his hand suddenly danced. In an instant, it was as if there were more than 10 spears stabbing at Zhou Fu, and the air was also roaring. Bang! 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 His palms and the spear collided again. Zhou Fu suddenly realized that the Rolling Stone palm had undergone some strange changes under the activation of the Wisdom King Demon subduing seal. The air around his body seemed to have become heavier. The first person to feel the change in the palm technique was Ren Jin. He had only exchanged 3 moves with Zhou Fu, and the wounds on his arms had all burst open. His wrists were also sore, and the spear in his hand almost fell out. Bastard! Ren Jin was shocked. He felt that if this continued, he would be defeated in, at most, 5 moves. Fight! Killing God! Ren Jin yelled loudly. The black iron spear suddenly disappeared, and then there was a faint light in the air, and an electric light appeared out of nowhere. Zhou Fu suddenly had an idea. His body suddenly fell back, and the electric light pierced through his body. Clang! A golden inscription. The black spear suddenly flew out. Zhou Fu retracted his right hand, straightened his body, and stood up. He rushed forward, and both of his palms whistled as he struck out. Ren Jin's hands couldn't stop trembling, and waves of intense pain spread up. When he saw Zhou Fu stand up, he gritted his teeth and struck out with his palms. At this moment, he had no way to retreat. His wounds had burst open, and blood was flowing out. He already felt weak. This old man has been in the Jianghu for more than 30 years. It's still too early for you to take my life. Ren Jin roared. His refined, inner strength suddenly exploded, and a huge force appeared. This was a battle where both sides would suffer. How could a person like him not know some desperate moves? Kill! The violent and huge force surged, and Zhou Fu's eyes lit up. Fight head-on. At the mention of this, he became excited. Fighting head-on was a man's romance. Let's see who will fall first. Kill! The two of them collided. Bang! 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 Waves of explosive force surged in all directions. Many braziers in the courtyard were sent flying, and they smashed onto the ground, causing sparks to fly. After a few moves, the two of them went crazy. They stopped blocking and greeted each other with attacks. Bam bam! After a few more moves, their bodies shook at the same time, and they both retreated. The difference was that Zhou Fu took a step back. On the other hand, Ren Jin spat out blood and kept retreating. How could Zhou Fu let him do as he wished? He took 2 steps forward and struck with his palms continuously. Crack! Just as he blocked 2 palms, Ren Jin's arms were broken by Zhou Fuxing, and this force went through his arms and hit his chest. At this moment, he felt as if his internal organs were churning. The immense pain hit his brain, and the inner strength around him dissipated instantly. Ah! Ren Jin screamed and fell heavily to the ground. Zhou Fu flashed and stepped on him. Bam! The force went through Ren Jin's body and hit the ground, causing the stone slabs to shatter instantly. Puff! Ren Jin spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment, half of Zhou Fu's mask had shattered. The upper right eye, the surroundings, and the lower left face were exposed. Looking at the overly young face, Ren Jin asked in puzzlement why. Zhou Fu looked at the other party's intact ribs and sighed inwardly. Are all bones at the bone-tempering realm this hard? Hearing the question, he pressed his right palm against the man's chest, holding back his palm energy, and said in a low voice, "You took over my restaurant, cut off my source of income, injured my men, destroyed my house, and robbed me of my money. I'm here today to collect my debts." Restaurant? House? Ren Jin was puzzled. He knew that Zhou Fu wouldn't lie. What restaurant? See return restaurant. See return restaurant. Ren Jin was taken aback for a moment before he said with a bitter smile, "Would you believe me if I said I didn't know?" Zhou Fu fell silent before nodding. "Got it. Go to hell. Walk slowly." Ren Jin nodded. "All right, I'll wait." At that moment, how could he not understand that he had been tricked by his subordinates? Once he was tricked, he would lose his life. Bam! His palm force erupted. Large amounts of blood gushed out of his 7 orifices. Ren Jin was dead. Chapter 82. After Zhou Fu killed Ren Jin, Steward Liu, who had seen everything from the corner, panicked. He scrambled to Zhou Fu's side, pounced on Ren Jin's corpse, and reached into Ren Jin's arms. With a ripping sound, Steward Liu pulled out something. With the help of the fire, Zhou Fu saw that it was a small brown bag. "Sir, this is Ren Jin's treasury key. I'll take you there now." It was hard to guard against a thief in the house. Zhou Fu shook his head. Just as he was about to say something, his ears suddenly twitched. There was a faint sound coming from outside the wall, not far away. Steward Liu, who had a flattering smile on his face, did not notice Zhou Fu's abnormality. "Sir, I'll take you to Ren Jin's treasury now. There's no rush." Bang! A strong force sent Steward Liu tumbling. When he looked up again, Zhou Fu's figure had already disappeared. Boom! There was a loud bang. Zhou Fu's palm had created a big hole in the wall not far away. Behind the hole, there was an old man lying paralyzed on the ground, his face full of fear. When he saw Zhou Fu walking over, his expression was extremely terrified, and his body began to tremble. Don't kill me. I'm the butler here. I know where the good things are." "Butler?" Zhou Fu picked him up like a little chick and walked back to the courtyard. With a raise of his arm, he threw him next to Ren Jin's corpse, face to face with Steward Liu. The man who claimed to be the butler was thrown to the ground and cried out in pain. He raised his head and immediately saw Steward Liu, who had a confused look on his face. "Oh, isn't this Steward Liu? You're still alive." Steward Liu felt uncomfortable being stared at. In Zhou Fu's eyes, Steward Liu seemed to be a little afraid of the butler. I was wondering who it was." "So it's Steward Wu. You're not dead yet. How dare I walk in front of you?" Seeing the two of them starting to quarrel, Zhou Fu said unhappily, "If you two want to die, I'll send you on your way. Maybe Ren Jin hasn't gone far yet. If you follow him, you can continue to work." Hearing the words of the man who had killed their leader, the two of them instantly shut their mouths. After the two of them quieted down, Zhou Fu coldly snorted and pointed at Steward Liu. "Take me to Ren Jin's treasury. Once I get the item, I'll let you go." Steward Liu nodded repeatedly. He still believed in this point. After all, Zhou Fu was wearing a mask, and he was just a small fry. To put it bluntly, he was just a lackey. For someone like Zhou Fu who dared to kill his way into the Red Sea Gang's base, why would he care about the life and death of an ant? Before Steward Liu could move, Steward Wu became agitated. He didn't want to die either. Sir, I also know a lot of important things. Please spare my life." Oh, these stewards and managers all have something in their hearts. Zhou Fu looked at him playfully and said, "If I'm satisfied with what you have, I'll naturally spare your life." Steward Wu's face lit up. He pounced on Ren Jin's body and quickly searched with his hands. Seeing Steward Wu's actions, Steward Lu sneered. Old thing, if you're looking for Ren Jin's key, then you'll be disappointed. Steward Wu paused for a moment and slowly pulled out his hands. A dark golden key was held in his hands. He looked up at Steward Lu and said disdainfully, "This is the key to the treasury." What? Steward Lu's eyes suddenly widened. Steward Wu turned to Zhou Fu and said, "Sir, all the money in the Red Sea Gang's base is here." Zhou Fu nodded, but he felt very strange. He lightly kicked Steward Lu. "Lead the way. Let's take a look at Ren Jin first." Steward Lu was quick-witted and hurriedly led the way. After entering the room, Steward Wu skillfully wandered around the room and then lit up the light. Steward Lu snorted and then walked to the front of the bookshelf. After fiddling with it for a while, a few mechanical sounds rang out and a secret compartment appeared behind the bookshelf. "Sir, take a look. This is Ren Jin's treasure collection." Zhou Fu walked closer. After seeing the things in the secret compartment, the corner of his eyes couldn't help but twitch. There were too few things inside. "Take it out." "Yes, sir." There weren't many things inside. Steward Lu placed them one by one on the table. A stack of gold notes, a stack of silver notes, 2 books, and 2 porcelain bottles. It was simple and plain, giving Zhou Fu a feeling that it was unreal. Just this. The room fell silent. Steward Wu came over with a package and said, "Sir, I'll pack it for you." After arranging the things, he handed it to the somewhat speechless Zhou Fu. Seeing this, Zhou Fu didn't say anything. He walked to the side and picked up the lantern. "Take me to the treasury." "Yes, sir, please." The 3 of them left the room and hurried all the way. Soon, they arrived at the treasury. Steward Wu walked up and opened the door. Where are the things? The vault was empty, with only a few wooden shelves left. Seeing this, Zhou Fu didn't plan to stay any longer. He said in a deep voice, "Are you two playing with me?" As soon as he said this, the 2 people standing opposite Zhou Fu almost burst into tears. "Sir, there was some here before." Zhou Fu snorted. "Now I don't have any money. Do as you see fit." Hearing this, Steward Wu and Steward Lu looked at each other. They saw deep helplessness in each other's eyes. The 2 of them sighed in their hearts and then took out some things from their bodies. Zhou Fu was overjoyed. The treasury was gone, but it wasn't bad to have some extra money. Taking the banknotes from Steward Lu, Zhou Fu's eyes narrowed. The banknotes had the words Heong City written on it. At this time, Steward Wu took out a small package. After opening it, there was a small wooden box inside. This looked very familiar to Zhou Fu. Wasn't this the wooden box that Zhou Fu gave him? It was really fate making fools of people. "Sir, can we go now?" Under the expectant gaze of the 2, Zhou Fu struck out 2 palms. Kacha! In the sound of 2 bones breaking, Steward Wu and Steward Lu flew backward and knocked down a wooden shelf. Then, a flame fell, and the door of the vault closed with a bang. After Zhou Fu returned to the inn, he was led to the door of the room by the waiter. "Bang, bang, bang. Who is it?" Yuju's voice came from the room. Zhou Fu replied, "It's me." Creak! The door opened, and Yuju's face was full of surprise. "Young master, you." Yuju was stunned. The clothes that Zhou Fu was wearing were not the ones that he was wearing when he went out. "You're back." At this time, Ma Shuping also came out. "Yes." Zhou Fu nodded and walked in. Yuju said to the waiter, "Can I trouble you to prepare some hot water?" As she said that, she took out a few coins and handed it over. "Okay, don't worry, miss. I'll prepare it for you." Bang, the door closed. "Young master, are you okay?" Zhou Fu shook his head. "I'm fine." Then he took out a stack of banknotes and handed it to Ma Shuping. "Take this money tomorrow, find a quiet place, and buy a small house." "Oh, right. The place has to be near the East Pier." "Yes, I understand," Ma Shuping replied. He suddenly felt that Zhou Fu had changed. "If there's nothing else, go rest. There's still a lot to do tomorrow." "Yes, then I'll leave first." Chapter 83. Young master, are you really okay? Hearing Yuju's worried tone, Zhou Fu shook his head and said, "I'm really okay." Then he took out a stack of gold notes and placed it on the table. These are our belongings. Keep them well. Looking at the gold notes on the table, Yuju was stunned. After she reacted, she hurried forward and held the gold notes in her arms. Her careful look made her look cute. Young master, these are all for me to keep? Seeing this, Zhou Fu was amused. Yes, I'll leave them all to you. Thank you, young master. I'll prepare a change of clothes for you first. After the shop has boiled the water, young master can wash up. Then, Yuju walked to the wardrobe, opened the door, and took out a package. After opening the package, Yuju looked at the few remaining clothes inside and sighed. It's a pity that those clothes were all made of high-quality materials, but they were burned by a fire. It's okay, I'll just buy more. Young master, it's easy for you to say. Those materials are precious. Yuju turned around and saw Zhou Fu, who had taken off his clothes and his body that was full of scars. Although those wounds were no longer bleeding, Yuju's tears immediately gushed out. Especially on Zhou Fu's limbs and chest, there were a total of 5 scars that looked particularly hideous and about a finger wide. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Sir, the hot water is ready. You can use it in the bathroom. I'll take my leave. The waiter's words broke the atmosphere in the room. Zhou Fu picked up the small package that contained Rin Jin's collection and walked towards the bathroom. When he entered the bathroom, Zhou Fu was shocked by the facilities in front of him. If it wasn't for the different materials inside, he would have thought that this was the world from before he transmigrated. At this moment, Yuju also walked in. She glanced at the package in Zhou Fu's hand and didn't say anything. She walked straight to the bathtub and fiddled with it a few times. A stream of water began to pour into the bathtub. Zhou Fu walked closer to take a look. This bathtub also had a strange structure. It could allow people to lie inside and have a pillow for their heads. Moreover, it could also allow their hair to be placed in the basin outside the bathtub. They could soak in the bath while washing their hair. After a while, Yuju said, "Young master, you can bathe now." Zhou Fu hung the package to the side, took off his clothes, leaving only his shorts, and stepped into the bathtub. Zhou Fu let out a comfortable moan as the warm water wrapped around his body. Yuju's face was red as she spread out Zhou Fu's hair and placed it into the basin. His hair entered the water, and before Yuju could wash it, a red color spread out, emitting a faint smell of blood. Yuju's eyes widened in horror as her heart pounded. With a trembling voice, she whispered, "Young master." Zhou Fu closed his eyes and said lightly, "Bathe." Yes. After changing 3 basins of water, the bloodstains were finally washed away. "Young master, it's clean. You can leave first." Yes. In the bedroom, there was a light. Zhou Fu ate the jerky that Yuju prepared for him while looking at the things in the package. He kept some of the banknotes for himself and gave the rest to Yuju. At this moment, there were 2 porcelain bottles and 2 books in the package. Zhou Fu picked up one book and read, "Soul-Breaking Spear." Seeing this martial art, he laughed. This should be the first weapon-type martial art that he obtained. Shaking his head, he threw the soul-breaking spear to the side. The current Zhou Fu preferred to use his own body as a weapon. Moreover, even if he needed to cultivate a weapon, it would be a saber, not a spear. Essence Chi Wheel. This name was very novel. He flipped open the secret manual and quickly browsed through it. As he flipped through the pages, the expression on Zhou Fu's face became more and more shocked. As he understood the martial art, he could not help but sigh, "What the F***CK? There's even a martial art that can eat." If this was in the past, the big stomach king would be nothing. Those who cultivate this martial art are all moving sewers. The Essence Chi Wheel, simply put, was to speed up digestion and increase the efficiency of converting food into energy. Then, the extracted energy would be converted into Essence Chi and stored in the body. It could be used and stored at any time. Moreover, as the body and Chi became stronger, the energy stored would also increase. The most important thing was that this martial art did not occupy the meridians. The place where the energy was stored was a place called the Yangming Wheel. I like this, it's a must. Not only can I not get fat, but I can also store energy. This is crazy. Damn, I didn't expect Renjin to have such a good thing. It's worth it. Then, he looked at the small porcelain bottles. Since the secret manual gave him such a big surprise, then these two blind boxes. No, blind bottles. What kind of surprise would they have? He casually picked up a red bottle and shook it gently. A soft sound came from the bottle. Zhou Fu held his breath, opened the bottle, and poured out a few brown pills. He stared at the pills for a while and shook his head. He did not recognize it. He stuffed it back again. There was also a white jade bottle. After shaking it, it did not make any sound. Out of curiosity, he opened the bottle and poured out some silver white powder. The color of the powder was very heavy. It was more like the color of lead. Is this the legendary poison? Seeing this kind of thing that only appeared in TV shows, Zhou Fu acted like he was looking for trouble and touched the powder with his little finger. Cold. Ice cold. At this moment, Zhou Fu felt as if his palm had been plunged into ice. Ding, extreme substance detected, beginning absorption. Streams of cold that seemed to be able to freeze bones flowed through Zhou Fu's arm and into his body. Damn, support actually needs this stuff? Zhou Fu endured the cold on his arm as he looked at the powder curiously. All the powder in the bottle had been poured out, and it all gathered on Zhou Fu's palm and quickly disappeared. That's it. Zhou Fu swung his arm and used his blood to relieve the discomfort as he called out to the support interface. Ding, energy extraction complete. Support upgrade begins. Ding, generating skill set template. Template generation complete. Ding, generating skill set attribute. Generation complete. Ding, skill set fusion activated. Ding, loading attribute panel. Loading successful. Ding, support upgrade complete. A series of notifications stunned Zhou Fu. After hearing that the support upgrade was complete, he quickly called out to the support interface in his mind. Status, 63% energy. 15, Wisdom King Scripture. Level 2. Wisdom King Visualization. Level 2 Insight. Wisdom King's Immovable Seal. Level 2 Vitality. Wisdom King Exorcism Seal. Level 2 Seal. Wisdom King Exorcism Seal. Level 2 Vibration. Wisdom King's Aquarius Seal. Level 2 Defense. Wisdom King's Fearless Seal. Level 2 Spirit. Bronze Armor. Level 3 Low-Level Vitality Enhancement. Level 3 Damage Reduction. Level 3 Strength Enhancement. Level 3 Iron Bone Secret Scroll. Level 3 Bone Enhancement. Level 3 Dragon Embracing Stance. Level 1 High-Level Vitality Enhancement. Level 1 Phantom Moon Body Movement. Level 2 Lightness Movement. Level 2 Evasion. Level 2 Rolling Stone Palm. Mastery Thick Earth Strength. Level 1 Low-Level Vitality Enhancement. Level 3 Fist Mountain Splitter. Level 1 Fist Attack Enhancement. Level 1 Eternal Spring Energy. Level 3 Low-Level Recovery. Level 3 Blade Steps. Level 3 Linear Speed. Level 3 So these are my attributes? Zhou Fu looked at the unfamiliar yet familiar interface as he thought about it. Chapter 84. Just as Zhou Fu was studying the new version of the auxiliary interface, a message suddenly appeared in his mind. This message was the instructions for the auxiliary interface. After the auxiliary upgrade, there was no longer a cooldown time or proficiency to upgrade techniques. Instead, it consumed energy or status points. If there was not enough energy, or if there was no energy, status points would be consumed. Status points were directly related to his body. When a value was lower than 80%, he would feel uncomfortable. If it was lower than 50%, there would be damage. If it was lower than 30%, his life would be in danger. In other words, as long as I have enough energy, I can upgrade indefinitely. Thinking of this, Zhou Fu's eyes suddenly lit up. He turned his gaze to his remaining 15 energy points. Upgrade the Wisdom King Scripture. Zhou Fu's eyes widened, and he suddenly sat up from the bed. In his mind, the face of the Buddha gradually became clear. The face looked exactly like Zhou Fu's. For black arms stretched out from behind the Buddha, and the fingers were changing. It was the species seals of the Wisdom King scripture. As the seals were continuously formed by the Buddha, a feeling of enlightenment surged in his mind. At the same time, on the auxiliary interface, the 6 explanations under the Wisdom King scripture slowly became illusory and gradually disappeared. A faint smile slowly appeared on Zhou Fu's face. At this time, the 2 offensive hand seals in the Wisdom King scripture could be integrated into each of his barehanded attacks. As for the other 3 types of hand seals, they had become passive effects. Just as Zhou Fu was happy about the changes in the Wisdom King scripture, a huge force exploded in his body, and his body rapidly grew. In just a few seconds, a 2-meter-tall little giant with bulging muscles appeared in the room. Huff, a gust of hot air came out of Zhou Fu's mouth and nose. At this time, his whole body was emitting high temperature. The upgrade experience is still so bad. The pain caused by the high temperature made Zhou Fu hunch his body. A large amount of sweat was just excreted from his body, but it was evaporated by the high temperature, leaving layers of light gray salt stains. Then, the muscles all over his body began to tremble, as if there was an invisible hand constantly kneading and squeezing. After about 10 minutes, the heat subsided. Zhou Fu panted heavily and used his hand to poke at the muscles on his arm that had shrunk by 2 circles. Wow, it's as hard as a piece of iron. He opened the support page and saw that the Wisdom King Scripture's attributes had undergone a huge change. Status, 75% energy, 5 Bright King Scripture. Level 3, Comprehension Enhancement Level 3, Constitution Enhancement Level 3, Seal Enhancement Level 3, Vibration Enhancement Level 3, Defense Enhancement Level 3, Spirit Enhancement Level 3, Advanced Muscle Enhancement Level 1. My condition has improved, and my energy has decreased by 10 points. It feels pretty good. Zhou Fu clenched his fist and grinned. This feeling of being filled with power is really intoxicating. Circulating his inner strength, Zhou Fu's body began to shrink, returning to his previous appearance. Then, he took out the Vital Essence Wheel, which he had decided to cultivate. Upgrade. Essence Wheel, Level 1, Strengthened Absorption Level 1. A warm feeling rose from Zhou Fu's stomach. He sensed it carefully and found that there was a small dot moving slowly on top of his stomach. It was like a second stomach, faintly emitting the feeling of hunger. This should be the Yangming Wheel mentioned in the manual. This thing is really expensive to cultivate. He sighed and grabbed a fist-sized piece of jerky and bit off half of it. I still have 4 points of energy left. I feel like I can level up 2 more times. Continue. Essence Wheel, Level 2, Strengthened Absorption Level 2. Essence Wheel, Level 3, Strengthened Absorption Level 3. After leveling up 2 times, his energy had reached 0. It was not even enough. The status was now at 70%. Zhou Fu patted his stomach in disappointment. He suddenly felt that he had suffered a loss. He glanced at the Shaoyang palm that was still grayed out. Forget it. I'll put this aside for now. Sleep. I still have things to do tomorrow. The next morning, Ma Shuping brought 2 letters to Zhou Fu's room. Young master, before we left the Yang City, the old master told me to give these 2 letters to you when we arrived at Ningen City. The old master also said that this is a recommendation letter. As for where to go, it's up to you. Too many things happened yesterday, so I forgot about it. Zhou Fu ate a big bun in one bite and swallowed it after chewing a few times. It's okay. You can go after breakfast. Find us a place to stay first. Yes. Young master, I'll take my leave first. Okay. Looking at the 2 letters on the table, the one on the left had Red Sea Gang written on it. The one on the right had Giant Whale written on it. The old man arranged it so well. I guess he doesn't plan to come? Zhou Fu mumbled. He took the Red Sea Gang's letter and tore it up. He threw it into a small bowl and ordered Yu Zhu to burn it. Then he put the letter with Giant Whale into his pocket. After breakfast, Zhou Fu went back to the pier on the east side of the city alone. At this time, the pier was full of Red Sea Gang members. They were holding shiny weapons in their hands. Their eyes were red, and they looked like they were ready to kill at any time. After taking a look, Zhou Fu turned around and left. Brother, where is the Giant Whale? The man who was stopped by Zhou Fu was a little angry. He turned around and saw Zhou Fu, who was a head taller than him. The man's dissatisfaction disappeared in an instant. He smiled and said, "Giant whale? I don't know about that, but there's an Elysium in front. It's the giant whale's property. You can ask around." "Thanks." Elysium was one of the two gambling houses on the east side of Ning and City. The other was the Red Sea Gang's one. Jean Lu Zhou Fu came to the door of the Elysium and was about to walk inside. Hey, brother, it's so early in the morning. It's not open yet. Come back in the afternoon." A man in black stopped Zhou Fu. "Is this the giant whale?" The man looked at Zhou Fu and nodded. "Yes, what's the matter?" Zhou Fu took out an envelope from his pocket and handed it over. At the same time, there were a few taels of silver. "Please pass it to the manager here." The man saw the words "giant whale" on the envelope and the seal on the lower right corner. He was stunned for a moment. He took the envelope and the silver and said, "Wait a moment. I'll be back soon." After that, the man turned and entered the gambling house. After about 20 minutes, a young man came out of the gambling house. He had an ordinary face, a height of 1.8 meters, and a somewhat thin body. "I'm the manager of the Elysium. My name is Jean Peng. Is that letter yours?" Zhou Fu nodded. "Yes, it's mine. Come in first." So he followed Jean Peng into the gambling house. The group of people came to a quiet room. Jean Peng said, "That letter was written by our gang's foreign affairs elder, Elder Wu. I'm not qualified to read it. I've already sent someone to hand it over. There will be a letter this afternoon. During this time, I'll have to trouble you. Brother, how should I address you?" "Zhou Fu." "Oh, Brother Zhou, you can rest here first. Someone will bring tea and snacks later. If you're hungry, there will also be food. By the way, may I ask if Brother Zhou has something urgent? I want to join the giant whale." Chapter 85. Join the gang. Jean Peng looked at Zhou Fu's strong body and smiled. "If Brother Zhou just wants to join the gang, of course, there's no problem. You just need to pass a simple test." "Test? A test to join the gang? It's not like I'm studying." Looking at Zhou Fu's puzzled expression, Jean Peng explained, "Brother Zhou knows martial arts, right?" Zhou Fu nodded. "I've trained a little with my family." Jean Peng naturally didn't care about such humble words and pretended not to hear them. "That's right. Brother Zhou knows martial arts. Naturally, you can't be like an ordinary person." Jean Peng smiled. "I wonder why Brother Zhou wants to join the giant whale? Whether it was the giant whale or the Red Sea Gang. To put it nicely, it was a gang. To put it bluntly, it was an underground force. Not many people were willing to join. Why?" Zhou Fu naturally couldn't say that it was because he had a grudge against the Red Sea Gang. He made up a reason. "When I saw Elder Wu Jinya fight, I was shocked. At that time, I wanted to join the giant whale and learn some skills." Jean Peng suddenly understood. So Brother Zhou wants to learn martial arts. For martial arts? Giant whale's headquarters. The gang leader, Xing Gang, laughed and threw the letter aside. "Gang leader, did something happen?" A middle-aged man sat diagonally across from Xing Gang. He looked like a scholar and had a faint sense of elegance. This man was the giant whale's internal affairs elder, Kong Yutsung. He was in charge of the gang's finances and internal affairs. He saw Xing Gang's strange expression and asked, "Did Elder Wu run into some trouble?" "He didn't run into any trouble, because the trouble came to us." "Oh." Kong Yutsung was instantly interested. "Tell me, what kind of trouble?" Xing Gang said, "Zhou Fu, the only son of the Zhou family in Heiyang City, wants to join the giant whale. He's already waiting at the Elysium." "The Zhou family of Heiyang?" Kong Yutsung's eyes narrowed slightly. "This Heiyang Zhou family is very mysterious. Should we reject him?" "No need." Xing Gang shook his head, a strange smile appearing on his face. "I have another interesting piece of news. There are more. When Zhou Fu was in Heiyang City, he was in charge of a gambling den. It was opened by the Zhou family and the Red Sea Gang." At this point, Xing Gang's smile grew even wider. "I received news that the Red Sea Gang leader, who worked with Zhou Fu, has also returned. He's now in charge of the 1,000 Gold Building at the East Pier." Kong Yutsung's expression also became strange. He hesitated and said, "Gang leader, you can't be thinking of..." Xing Gang didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked, "Oh right, you still don't know who the Red Sea Gang leader is, right?" "Who?" "Iron Tiger." Iron Tiger, Kong Yu Tsung directly shouted. The brother of the Red Sea Gang's deputy gang leader, Iron John, soul-breaking saber, Iron Tiger. When he heard the words soul-breaking saber, Xing Gang laughed loudly. Yes, yes, yes. Soul-breaking saber, ha ha ha. Gang leader, don't be like this. In any case, Iron Tiger's brother is the Red Sea Gang's deputy gang leader. He's in the blood-refining realm. After laughing for a while, Xing Gang calmed down. If he didn't have a good brother, he would have been killed long ago. I still remember the day he became the hall leader. Everyone in the gang, except for his brother, had a gloomy face. I even had someone send a congratulatory gift. Ha. Sighed, a person who hasn't even reached the peak of strength, refining realm relied on his brother to squeeze out a bone-forging realm expert and become the hall leader. This matter is, as he spoke, he looked at Xing Gang. You even had someone send a congratulatory gift. That Iron John Chi said he would come knocking on your door. That brat Iron John is quite shrewd. Forget it, let's not talk about him. Xing Gang calmed down a bit, then made a decision. Give the Elysium to Zhou Fu. As for his position, he'll be an external affairs emissary for now. This matter is settled. As the order was issued, Kong Yu Tsung sighed in his heart. It's going to be chaotic. Elysium. Jin Peng came to Zhou Fu's room. He looked at the servant beside him and asked, How's it going inside? The person asked had a troubled expression. He stammered. Everything else is fine. It's just that the Lord can eat too much. He can eat? Jin Peng frowned. He was unhappy, and his eyes were filled with disgust. He scolded in a low voice. What's wrong with eating a bit more? Next time you dare to gossip, be careful of your tongue. That's not it, Lord Jin. The person trembled and almost fell on his butt. The Lord inside has already eaten 5 chickens and more than 15 kilograms of beef. What the hell? Jin Peng's eyes widened in an instant. It's true. Several of my brothers can testify. Standing at the door, Jin Peng calmed down for a while. A strange thought emerged. This Zhou Fu, could it be that his family couldn't afford to feed him, so he came to the giant whale? He shook his head, dispelled the strange thought, and then pushed the door open and walked in. Inside the room, Zhou Fu grabbed the last piece of braised beef on the plate. It was about half a kilogram. He opened his mouth and ate more than half of it in 2 consecutive bites. Jin Peng was stunned when he saw Zhou Fu's table manners. He couldn't even speak. When Zhou Fu saw Jin Peng come in, he immediately understood that the giant whale had news. He chewed casually and swallowed all the beef in his mouth. Then he stuffed the small half of the beef in his hand into his mouth, raised his head, and swallowed it whole. Gulp, Jin Peng swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He felt a little suffocated in his chest. Brother Jin, is there any news? Zhou Fu asked while wiping his hands. Yes, there is. Jin Peng came back to his senses and hurriedly said, Our gang leader let Zhou Fuwei take over the Elysium. Zhou Fuwei? What kind of name is this? Seeing Zhou Fu's confused expression, Jin Peng explained, Today, I handed in the letter you brought, and then the gang leader let you take over the position of foreign affairs emissary and take over the Elysium. Is there such a good thing? Zhou Fu's heart instantly became alert, but he didn't show it on his face. Foreign affairs emissary? Take over the Elysium? Yes. As long as Zhou Fuwei makes a trip to the headquarters and changes his ID, it will be fine. Jin Peng continued to explain, the headquarters is not far from here, and the martial arts that Zhou Fuwei wants are all in the headquarters. He can use contribution points to exchange for them. Contribution points? There is no such thing as a free lunch in the world, and Zhou Fu understood this point. He was also greedy in the past and obtained the Rolling Stone Palm and Blade Steps, but each one was worse than the other. Because of the Rolling Stone Palm, he inexplicably became a disciple of the Heaven Yuan sect's Humble Peak, but he didn't know where the Humble Peak was. Later, he also bought the Blade Steps for free. If he didn't have a support skill, he might have been killed by Bloodblade sect's Shun Jie. Even the bronze armor art that he bought with money had the body refining hall behind it. Thinking about it carefully, it was really a sad story with snot and tears. Damn, now that I think about it, none of the things I learned were decent, damn. Chapter 86. The giant whale's headquarters was located outside of Ning and City at a bend in the river. It would take less than an hour to board a ship from the east pier of Ning and City and sail down the river. Zhou Fu stood at the bow of the ship and looked at the large cluster of buildings behind the pier. They were larger than a village, and he couldn't help but feel shocked. Is this the giant whale's headquarters? The attendant noticed Zhou Fu's shock and explained proudly, "That's right. This is the giant whale's headquarters." "How many people are there here?" Zhou Fu couldn't help but ask as he looked at the endless buildings. "How many people? I don't know about that. Perhaps Elder Kong might know." "Elder Kong." "Yes, Elder Kong Yutsung. He's in charge of the gang's internal affairs." The attendant was about to say something else when he suddenly noticed a conspicuous carriage driving into the pier. He pointed to the carriage and said, "Zhou Fuwei, the carriage is here to pick you up. Let's get down quickly." As soon as the group got off the ship, someone immediately invited Zhou Fu into the carriage, and they headed straight to the headquarters. Sitting in the carriage, Zhou Fu's mind was in turmoil. How could the local authorities tolerate the existence of such a force? According to his observations, the giant whale could easily assemble a group of people to rebel as long as it wanted to. It was strange. The carriage slowly moved forward and passed through a gate that was more than 10 meters tall and dozens of meters wide. Teams of men dressed in giant whale uniforms were patrolling the area. Occasionally, the sound of a group training could be heard in the air. What's the difference between this and a rebellion? Are the local authorities so careless? Or do they not care about these people at all? In Hayong City, the local authorities had only sent out a powerful force during the Yin Spirit Uprising. Otherwise, the presence of the local authorities was very low. "Zhou Fuwei, we're here." As soon as they got off the carriage, the coachman said, "Zhou Fuwei, the gang leader and the others are in the main hall. Please go in. I'll take my leave." As he looked at the main hall, Zhou Fu suddenly felt a little nervous. "I really miss this feeling." He grinned and walked in. Shua! More than 10 pairs of eyes looked over. In the hall, a young man in his 30s sat on the main seat facing the door. Under his blade-like eyebrows were a pair of deep eyes. Seeing Zhou Fu walk in, the young man smiled and said, "This must be Zhou Fu, Brother Zhou, right?" "Ha ha ha! I'm the leader of Giant Whale, Xing Gang. Usually you can call me Sect Master or Big Brother." This enthusiasm made Zhou Fu very uncomfortable. He clasped his hands together, revealing his strong muscles under his clothes, making his clothes tight. "Greetings, Gang Leader Xing, haha. Good man." Looking at Zhou Fu's figure, Xing Gang sighed. Then he looked around and said, "Today I invited everyone here to meet Brother Zhou so that we can work together in the future." Everyone was silent. No one answered. "Since Brother Zhou has joined our sect and Elder Wu is your guarantor, you can be an external affairs emissary for now. You will be in charge of the Ning and Elysium. In the future, when you make contributions, you can talk about your position." As soon as he said that, the atmosphere in the hall suddenly became heavy, especially Kong Yu Tsung, who was sitting to the left of Xingang. He had a bitter smile on his face. What was this man trying to do? Was he trying to kill Zhou Fu, or was he trying to kill someone? He looked at Xingang in confusion. Xinggang's expression was normal, but in his eyes, there was a dark light surging. At this time, in the hall, there were a total of 4 elders, including Kong Yu Tsung and a deputy sect master. Giant Whale's deputy sect master was called Shi Long. He was a man in his 40s with a slender body and wore a lake blue outfit. "Sect Master Xing, this is a little inappropriate," Shi Long said slowly. "Oh, what's inappropriate about it?" Xing Gang smiled faintly and looked at Shi Long. Even if Zhou Fu was recommended by Elder Wu Jianya, he shouldn't be given the position of external affairs emissary, let alone be in charge of the Elysium. At this point, Shi Long looked at Kong Yutsung. "Elder Kong, you're the sect's internal affairs elder. You said that we should give the Elysium to a, Originally, Shi Long wanted to describe Zhou Fu as a brat, but after looking at Zhou Fu's figure, he fell silent. Giving such an important place like the Elysium to someone who has just joined the sect, isn't it a little too childish? Kong Yu Tsung said, It's not Brother Zhou's first time in charge of a gambling den. I also believe in Sect Master's judgment. He will be able to do it. Oh, Sherlong's heart skipped a beat as he carefully sized up Zhou Fu. How could someone who wasn't even 20 years old manage a gambling den? What kind of family would do such a thing? Could it be that this Zhou Fu had a strong background? That couldn't be right. If he had a strong background, Wu Jianya wouldn't have written the letter. Sherlong suddenly didn't understand. He had originally thought that this Zhou Fu was recommended by Xingang to make things difficult for him. After all, he was loyal to another member of the Xing family and not Xingang. At this moment, Xingang suddenly spoke. Deputy Sect Master Shi, do you have any other questions? I wouldn't dare. Sect Master is wise. Of course I believe in you. Hearing Xinggang's tone, Sherlong hurriedly lowered his head. After Sherlong finished speaking, he waved his right hand slightly. There were 3 young men standing behind Sherlong. They were all in their 20s. These people were all carefully selected by him. The one with the highest cultivation level was already in the bone-forging realm and was considered an elite in the sect. They were the kind that could be promoted when there was a vacancy. Seeing Sherlong's gesture, the young man in the bone-forging realm stepped out of the group and bowed to Xingang. Sect Master, I have something to say. Seeing this person step out, Xinggang's heart skipped a beat. He glared at Sherlong and cursed him in his heart. Then, he looked at the young man and said, Speak. Sect Master, I don't care if Brother Zhou is in charge of the Elysium. However, I refuse to accept him as the external affairs emissary. The young man's expression gradually became agitated. He just joined the sect, and his cultivation level is still in the spirit training realm. How can he be the external affairs emissary? Many people agreed with this statement. Yes, why should he be? Yes, his cultivation level is too low. Humph, a spirit training realm cultivator is the external affairs emissary? Don't let him get killed by the other sections. Otherwise, our giant whale sect will lose face. Yes. How can this kind of person be the external affairs emissary? No, I object. I object to. The situation gradually got out of hand. Seeing this, the young man laughed in his heart. However, he still had a sad and indignant expression on his face. Impudent. An old man sitting on Xinggang's lower right suddenly shouted angrily, shaking the young people in the hall to the point that their faces turned pale. This is a meeting hall, not a pier. The old man looked around. Every young man who met his eyes hurriedly turned their heads. If you dare to be so impudent again, the giant whale sect will not forgive you. Sherlong said, Elder of Law Enforcement, you're too serious. Without waiting for Sherlong to finish, Elder of Law Enforcement coldly snorted. I have been in charge of the sect for 20 years and have never wronged anyone, nor will I let go of anyone who breaks the sect's rules. These words made Sherlong very uncomfortable. Although Elder of Law Enforcement didn't give him face, what he said was true. This made him even more uncomfortable. He couldn't afford to offend Elder of Law Enforcement, so he chose to keep quiet. Seeing Sherlong's setback, the hall quieted down. You refuse to accept it, right? Zhou Fu's voice suddenly sounded. Chapter 87. At this moment, Zhou Fu was in a bad mood. He felt that this giant whale was acting strangely. Take gang leader Xingang, for example. Every time he glanced at Sherlong, he would pause for a moment. Zhou Fu was very sure that it wasn't admiration. It was because he wanted to kill the other party, but he didn't do it for some reason. Now that the situation in the hall had developed to this state, Zhou Fu naturally knew that he had been used as a knife. Zhou Fu didn't care if he was a knife or not. As long as the pay was enough, he didn't mind being a knife. Since he knew his position, he decided to play along with the other party and see if the pay was good enough. If the other party only used him as a knife and didn't pay him. After seeing the situation clearly, Zhou Fu made a decision in an instant. That was why he suddenly spoke up. He looked at the young man, his eyes full of provocation. Since we're all from the same gang, let's fight. Everyone in the hall looked at Zhou Fu, especially after hearing his words. They were all stunned. The young man was a little confused. A strength cultivator actually challenged him. A bone-forging cultivator? You want to fight with me? Zhou Fu licked his lips. Come on, let's fight. You're not convinced, right? Come on. At this moment, his blood was boiling. After the Wisdom King's scripture leveled up, his body had been further strengthened. The surging power in his body made him want to find someone to test his strength on. However, his target wasn't the young man who jumped out, but the giant whale's deputy gang leader, Sherlong. The situation in the hall changed again. This time, it was out of everyone's expectations. Gang leader Xing Gang's expression changed from shock to a smile. He looked at Zhou Fu and was very satisfied with this knife. He made up his mind to sharpen the knife in the gang first before going out to see blood. Then he could use it in the hall. The young man was infuriated by Zhou Fu's words and his expression. Zhou Fu stretched out his hand and pointed at the young man. Aren't you dissatisfied with me being the external affairs emissary? Come on, if you defeat me, how about you become the external affairs emissary? Good. That's what you said. The young man nodded hatefully. At this moment, no one in the hall came out to oppose him. He laughed sinisterly. Don't worry, I will definitely show mercy. As soon as he finished speaking, a faint gray mist appeared around the young man's body. The mist was especially thick around his hands. Releasing internal strength was a sign of the bone-forging realm. Kill! The young man charged at Zhou Fu. His hands formed into claws, and mist condensed on his skin. The skin on his hands turned grayish-white like stone, and there was even a hint of green. This is the profound level technique, Jade Phosphorescent Hand. You're almost at the level of great accomplishment, right? Look, even the jade color has appeared. Why isn't that Zhou guy moving? I heard that he came from a small town and hasn't seen much of the world. He's probably scared silly. Facing the claw that could shatter stone, Zhou Fu remained motionless. The young man's eyes flashed, and the anger in his heart rose. The energy in his body rushed to his palms. Kid, I'm going to kill you today. His sharp claws tore through the air and grabbed at Zhou Fu's chest acupuncture point. Bang! A pair of big hands grabbed the young man's claws, and the anger in his heart was also strangled. The young man looked at Zhou Fu in astonishment. Then the world spun. Boom! In the midst of the dust, the young man was swung up by Zhou Fu and smashed to the ground. The huge recoil directly scattered the energy in the opponent's body. Under the chaos of the energy, a wave of pain surged in his body. The young man straightened his upper body as if he had cramps, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. Zhou Fu shook his head. With this little ability, how dare you stand out? The hall fell into a strange silence. Zhou Fu turned to look at the other two young men behind Sherlong. He stretched out his hand and pointed at them with 2 fingers. Are you two not convinced? Come at me together. When the two heard this, their hearts sank, and then their anger burned. Being pointed at and challenged in the meeting room of their own gang's headquarters was a slap in the face. What? Scared? The corner of Zhou Fu's mouth twitched. He kicked out, and with a gentle force, the young man under his feet flew out. The two of them were not in the bone-forging stage, but the peak of the strength-refining stage. They were only 1 step away from the bone-forging stage. But this 1 step could be said to be the difference between heaven and earth. An initial stage bone-forging stage cultivator casually beat up 4 or 5 peak strength-refining stage cultivators, and the difference was so big. The 2 young men stared at Zhou Fu with hatred. If looks could kill, they would have already torn Zhou Fu to pieces. Trash! Zhou Fu sneered and looked around. Is there anyone else who is not convinced? You can come at me together. When these words came out, the quiet hall instantly became lively. Impudent! You got guts. Bastard! Do you know what you're saying? I'm going to chop him to death. Xing Gang held back his laughter. He was now 100% satisfied with the saber he had taken a fancy to. After the scene became chaotic, the first one who was unhappy was the law enforcement elder. Gang leader, Xing Gang shook his head. It's fine. It's normal for young people to be a bit hot-blooded, unlike us old guys who haven't moved for a long time. These old guys? The law enforcement elder looked at the gray hair hanging down on his chest and suddenly had the urge to curse. Not only the law enforcement elder, but the elder of imparting arts was even more direct. He rolled his eyes at Xing Gang and snorted to express his dissatisfaction. The supervising elder was also an old man. He stroked his beard and ignored Xing Gang. Instead, he looked at the chaotic scene with interest. Long said with a straight face, "Since Zhou Fei has spoken, you young people can have a talk with each other." As Long's words fell, 8 young people walked into the hall. "Zhou Fei, please enlighten us." Their voices drowned out the noise in the hall. Zhou Fu grinned. The feeling of a big account bullying a small account was too good. He had never felt so good before. "Come on." As his chi and blood surged, Zhou Fu's whole body shook, and wisps of hot air rose from the surface of his body. He threw out a punch. "Kill!" The group of people instantly collided with each other. Boom! Waves after waves of energy exploded, and strong winds howled. Outside the hall, the senior members of the giant whale all focused their eyes on Zhou Fu. They saw that the attacks fell on him one after another, but they couldn't even leave a red mark on him. The people who were attacked were fine. Instead, the people who attacked Zhou Fu felt their arms ache from the recoil from Zhou Fu's body. This innate combat body. Since Zhou Fu didn't use his internal force, the color of the bronze armor skill didn't appear. All this fell into the eyes of the senior members of the giant whale. This was caused by Zhou Fu's naturally strong physique. Xing Gang's eyes lit up, and he was overjoyed. "Good saber. It's really a good saber. Ha ha." Kong Yutsung was also amazed. He whispered to Xing Gang, "Congratulations, faction leader." On the other hand, Xing Gang was grinning from ear to ear. "Although the saber is good, you should be careful not to hurt yourself." Then, Kong Yutsung added. A sharp light flashed in Xing Gang's eyes. He nodded slightly, and then glanced at Long on the other side, who was watching the scuffle in the field with a gloomy face. However, it couldn't be called a scuffle now. In the field, Zhou Fu relied on his strong defense and great strength to beat the group of people until they cried out miserably. Just now, 8 people rushed up, but now only 2 of them were standing. The others were all sent flying by his fists. Zhou Fei's kung fu is strong. We admit defeat. Yes, we admit defeat. We admit defeat. Zhou Fu stopped punching, walked to the side, picked up his clothes, and put them on. He said, "Remember to come to me when you're not convinced." Chapter 88. Clap, clap, clap. Xing Gang clapped his hands and said, "Someone, take the injured brothers away for treatment." Then he looked at Zhou Fu, his eyes full of admiration. "Since that's the case, the position of external affairs emissary is set. Someone will take Brother Zhou to handle the affairs later." Zhou Fu cupped his hands and thanked him. "Thank you, leader. I won't let you down." "Good. Ha ha." Seeing that the matter was settled, Long nodded at Zhou Fu and said, "There was a misunderstanding just now. I hope Brother Zhou won't hold a grudge against me. Everyone is doing this for the giant whale. We have to do our duty." His words seemed to come from the bottom of his heart. Zhou Fu's heart twitched when he heard it. Being targeted by such a sly old man, the days ahead were going to be troublesome. "Deputy leader, you're too serious. It's all for the giant whale." The two looked at each other and smiled. Nothing needed to be said. "I'll send you a congratulatory gift later to congratulate Brother Zhou on joining the giant whale. I still have things to take care of, so I won't stay any longer. Goodbye." Long cupped his hands at Xing Gang, then nodded at Zhou Fu and turned to leave. Everyone saw that the big show had come to an end, so they all said goodbye and left. Xing Gang got up and walked over. He patted Zhou Fu on the shoulder and said, "Brother Zhou, I still have things to do in the sect. I won't stay any longer. Take care, leader. Just call me Big Brother Xing when there's no one around." He winked at Zhou Fu. A chill ran down his spine and goosebumps appeared on his skin. Zhou Fu quickly said, "Yes, Big Brother Xing. Take care. I'll walk around on my own." "Ha ha, good. Tell me what you need." After that, Xing Gang also left. Seeing Xing Gang's back disappear, Zhou Fu slowly breathed a sigh of relief. "Foreign Affairs, Zhou. I have been ordered to show you around the headquarters." A young man who looked to be about 15 or 16 years old stood at the door and looked at Zhou Fu with some fear. He knew that the person in front of him was the one who had just crippled 9 people in the meeting hall. Those 9 people were the targets of their admiration. Zhou nodded and said, "Yes, how should I address you?" "Lord Envoy, you could just call me Little Chun. Do you have any place you want to go?" "Where do you want to go?" Zhou eyes flashed, like a hungry person who saw a table full of delicious food. "Where's the place where the sect stores the martial arts?" Little Chun replied, "Sir, you're going to choose a cultivation technique, right? I understand. Let's go to the External Affairs Hall and get our identity cards before heading to the Martial Cultivation Tower." Then, under Xiao Chen's lead, Zhou began to go through all the procedures. Giant Whale, Shilong's study. Zhou wants to go to the Martial Cultivation Tower. Oh, Shilong raised his eyelids and looked to the other side. There stood a young man with a gloomy face. It was the first person who had fought with Zhou in the meeting hall. "You fought with Zhou. How did it feel?" The young man's gloomy and pale face became even more embarrassed. He said in a deep voice, "When we fought, Zhou's inner strength flashed and disappeared. I can't determine his cultivation level, but I'm sure that he hasn't reached the peak of strength refining." Shilong nodded. He trusted the young man's deduction. After all, he had carefully trained him for many years. If he doubted it, wouldn't it be slapping his own face? A person who hasn't even reached the peak of strength refining. Born with great strength, copper skin, and iron bones? Ha! An unknown laughter echoed in the room. The sect leader has really found a wonderful person. Today's scuffle in the meeting hall had spread throughout the headquarters. The older generation was silent, while the younger generation was discussing. Some were dissatisfied, some were gloating, and some were indifferent. However, what was more uniform was that Shilong had been slapped in the face. If I remember correctly, there are a total of 8 mystic-level cultivation techniques in the sect. A smile appeared on Shilong's face. The other people in the room felt their hearts twitch, and they all lowered their heads. "You guys don't know how to cultivate normally. Now you know how powerful it is, right? If that's the case, then all of you should cultivate well. Go and borrow all the mystic-level cultivation techniques in the Martial Cultivation Tower. If you don't have enough contribution points, I'll pay for it." Yes, such talent, but only at strength refining. Zhou, who had obtained his identity card, went to the Martial Cultivation Tower. Standing at the door, Xiao Chun said, "Sir, there are 5 floors in the Martial Cultivation Tower. The first floor contains some ordinary information and some miscellaneous books. The second and third floors contain yellow stage cultivation techniques. The fourth floor is for mystic-level cultivation techniques." What about the 5th floor? If he did not know, he would ask. Since he could get the information for free, he had to ask. The 5th floor. Xiao Chen looked a little embarrassed. "I don't know." You don't know?" I really don't know." Zhou nodded and said, "All right. Sir, I won't go up with you. I'll wait for you on the 1st floor." Looking at Zhou's puzzled expression, Xiao Chen explained, "You need contribution points to go up." Understood. He just didn't have money. That was easy. He could go up by himself. Facing Xiao Chen's expectant gaze, Zhou said, "Then you can wait for me here." After speaking, he turned around and walked into the Martial Cultivation Tower. Xiao Chen was speechless. On the 2nd floor, an old man was sitting behind a desk with a drowsy look on his face. Even when he spoke, his voice was weak and feeble. Identity card. A palm-sized card with silver words on a black background was placed in front of the old man. Seeing the card, the old man instantly woke up. He sized up Zhou and asked, "You're the Zhou who defeated a bunch of people in the meeting hall?" Zhou was stunned when he heard this. How did the news spread so quickly? How could that be? We were just comparing notes. We didn't fight. The old man threw the identity card back, and a strange smile appeared on his face. "I think you went too easy on him." What did he mean? Seeing Zhou's confused expression, the old man's smile became even brighter. This Martial Cultivation Tower has a total of 121 Mystic class cultivation techniques. Among them, there are only 8 mental cultivation techniques. So little. He seemed to have seen through Zhou's thoughts, or perhaps he had seen too much of it. The old man explained, "It's quite a lot. Mental cultivation techniques are different from ordinary cultivation techniques. Usually, it's considered a lot if 3 people came to borrow them. Today, all 8 of them are gone. He seemed to admire Zhou Fu's gloomy expression very much. He continued, if you don't take out the 3 levels of mystic class cultivation techniques, you'll get 20 points per hour. If you borrow them, you'll get 500 points per day. The old man continued. Foreign affairs emissaries can read the cultivation techniques from the 3rd level and below for 24 hours every month. Every year, they can borrow a mystic class mid-class cultivation technique for 3 days. It's free. There's a 20% discount for those who charge. All right, foreign affairs emissaries will get 1,000 points per month. What a big deal. How nice it would be to give the money to me. Zhou Fu muttered and shook his head. He made a mental note. Thank you for your explanation, senior. He turned around and was about to go upstairs when the old man said, Kid, remember to hurt them next time. Only pain can make them remember. Looking at Zhou Fu's back, the old man muttered softly, Finally, there's some fun. I wonder if little gang's guy can do it. Chapter 89. With his waist tag, Zhou Fu went up to the 3rd floor. Pushing open the door, Zhou Fu was stunned by the environment inside. At this moment, he had the illusion that he was back in the library. There were more than 10 bookshelves here, and the types of books were written on one side of the bookshelves. There were medical books, miscellaneous books, hidden weapons, fist techniques, etc. On the other side of the floor, there was a row of tables and chairs. At this moment, there were more than 10 people sitting there. Just as Zhou Fu walked in, they all looked over at the same time. Zhou Fu did not care about this. He first went to the place where the mental cultivation techniques were written. The bookshelves were empty, and only a few labels were left, indicating which martial arts techniques had been placed here before. True Raging Flames, Mystic Water Technique. As he walked past each label, the anger in Zhou Fu's heart gradually rose. Long, old man, I will beat you to death sooner or later. After walking through a bookshelf, Zhou Fu was angry and helpless. He was angry because the other party had used such a dirty trick to deal with him. He was helpless because he could not defeat the other party, so he could only endure it. He then went to the leg technique section. After browsing for a while, he reached out and took out a flying dragon. This martial arts technique had 5 stages: run, dash, leap, sweep, and fly. After mastering it, one's body would be as light as a swallow. One could pass through mountains and forests, walk on water, and cross rivers. It could even allow one to fly at low altitudes for short distances in the training stage. However, this martial arts technique was only a mystic level mid-grade martial arts technique. Is it that ridiculous? At this moment, the Phantom Moon movement technique appeared in Zhou Fu's mind. He was suffering from paranoia and felt that there was something wrong with the 2 martial arts techniques that Shunjie gave him. He flipped through the flying dragon page by page, and the support prompt appeared. Greetings, Sir External Envoy. A voice sounded. Zhou Fu turned around and saw a young man standing beside him. The young man was looking at him with eager eyes. Sir External Envoy, I took a fancy to this martial arts technique 2 months ago. I only managed to save enough contribution points to exchange for it today. Could you? Oh, here you go. Thank you, Sir External Envoy. Polite people are always lovelier. Zhou Fu smiled and nodded. He switched to a leg technique called Rushing Thundersteps. After successfully cultivating it, the strength of his legs was unparalleled. When he kicked out, the force behind his kick was like a thunderbolt. This cultivation technique seems ordinary. Zhou Fu commented as he flipped through the pages. Sir Envoy, is something the matter? The cultivation technique in your hand. The same thing happened again. He frowned and handed over the cultivation technique in his hand. Thank you, Sir Envoy. Zhou Fu already knew that someone was playing tricks on him twice in a row. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? This time, he came to the giant whale's martial cultivation tower to look for a mental cultivation technique, a movement technique, and a fist technique. Now, all the mental cultivation techniques had been taken away by someone else. The leg technique that he had taken a liking to was also given away, because his skin wasn't thick enough. Although he could already cultivate Flying Dragon's 5 zigzags with assistance, he was still unhappy and angry. Zhou Fu came to the bookshelf marked with fist techniques. The first thing that caught his eye was mountain-breaking fist. He thought in confusion, isn't this cultivation technique from the yellow stage? Why did it appear in a profound-level cultivation technique? Out of curiosity, he took down the cultivation technique. Just as he flipped to a page, his heart skipped a beat. He used his left hand to cover the name on the page and then slowly flipped through it. As he flipped through it, he understood that compared to the one he had cultivated before, the cultivation technique in his hand was more detailed. The technique of exerting force was also more abundant. More importantly, it was mixed with the insights of many predecessors. And these insights were exactly what Zhou Fu needed. Sir Envoy, Zhou Fu's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, here it comes. What's the matter? The person's face was very conflicted. His eyes were fixed on the secret manual in Zhou Fu's hand. There was a look of longing in his eyes, mixed with timidity. With such a look, Zhou Fu wanted to applaud him. It was too King vivid. Sir Envoy, I want to borrow this secret manual in your hand. I wonder, Zhou Fu pretended to be hesitant. Seeing the change in Zhou Fu's expression, the young man's eyes flashed. He slowly put his right hand behind his back and quickly made a gesture. Brother, are you done? You have to pay for staying on the 3rd floor for a while. Hurry up. Another young man walked over. He walked around the bookshelf and saw Zhou Fu frowning. The person's eyes suddenly lit up with joy, but he hurriedly hid it. Brother, what's wrong? Unfortunately, that cultivation technique has been taken a fancy to by Sir Envoy. Sir Envoy this? Zhou Fu sneered in his heart. He raised his head and said, You really want to borrow this cultivation technique? Yes, I have been preparing for this cultivation technique for 2 months. All right, I'll go with you to register. Let's go. The two of them looked at each other and followed Zhou Fu to the registration area in front of the door. Standing at the registration area, Zhou Fu asked again, Are you sure you want to borrow this cultivation technique? Yes, good. Then I'll have to trouble Senior to register them. Zhou Fu took out the secret manual and placed it in front of the old man who looked like he was watching a show. Mountain-breaking fist, the young man exclaimed. His eyes widened as he stared at the name of the cultivation technique. The old man grinned. These young people were really interesting. It was nice to use contribution points to amuse him. Which one of you wants to register? Give me your identity card. This mountain-breaking fist is a mystic low-grade cultivation technique. It costs 300 contribution points per day. Come on. The two young men were stunned. They stood there, not knowing what to do. Zhou Fu's eyes flashed coldly. He scolded, Hurry up. Don't waste my time. The old man in charge of registration picked up the mountain-breaking fist and sighed. This cultivation technique is widely circulated in the world. Most of them are at the yellow stage. A few decades ago, our giant whale had an elder who was good at fist techniques. He reorganized this cultivation technique and added his own insights into it. That's how this mystic, low-grade mountain-breaking fist came into existence. Hearing the old man's explanation, the two young men's faces turned even uglier. They already knew the mountain-breaking fist, and there were so many other mystic-level cultivation techniques. Why did they have to choose this one? Which one of them wasn't better than this one? Sir External Envoy, the young man who wanted to borrow the cultivation technique trembled. I saw wrongly. I didn't want to borrow this one. You saw wrongly? Zhou Fu narrowed his eyes and rushed towards the two of them. Are you two playing with me? Today, you have to borrow this cultivation technique, whether you want to or not. Did these people really think that Zhou Fu, had no temper? Again and again, they came to cause trouble. His fierce tone scared the two of them so much that their faces turned pale. At this time, the people in the room heard the commotion and came out one after another. Sir External Envoy, don't you think this is a bit too much? Our brothers just saw the wrong cultivation technique. You don't have to do this, right? A person walked out of the crowd and looked at Zhou Fu. He bowed slightly. I'm Jiang Shankin. Greetings, Sir External Envoy. Seeing Jiang Shankin walk out, the crowd started to talk. It's him. Isn't Jiang Shankin outside? When did he come back? He probably heard that Zhou Fei beat up his brother Jiang Shangqian in the meeting hall and rushed back. After all, Ning'an City isn't that far. TSK. This is going to be interesting. Jiang Shankin's cultivation is higher than his brother's. He's already at the second stage of the bone forging stage. Isn't that so? Moreover, his mountain-breaking steel hand is fierce and unparalleled. TSK. Chapter 90. Sir External Envoy, you've just arrived in the sect, and you're already in a high position. How would you know how difficult it is for us? Jiang Shankin's face was filled with grief and indignation. His body was trembling slightly. The murmurs of discussion around them quickly quieted down. The surrounding people looked at the two people in the middle of the square with complicated expressions. Seeing the effect, Jiang Shankin took a step towards Zhou Fu. At that moment, there were only 2 steps between the two of them. Sir External Envoy, these 2 sect members only read the wrong secret manual, yet you're forcing them. Don't you think that this action will make people laugh at you? He didn't wait for Zhou Fu to speak and took another step forward. Is it really the right thing for an external envoy to do to make things difficult for sect members? Jiang Shankin's eyes were cold. Are you fit to be an external envoy? The surrounding crowd, who were initially furious, felt as if they had been splashed with a bucket of cold water when they heard this sentence. They instantly felt a chill down their spines. Zhou Fu raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "Oh, if I'm not fit, then are you?" Boom! A powerful aura burst out from Jiang Shankin's body. His powerful inner strength surged out in all directions. The surrounding crowd, who were caught off guard, was blown back by the airwave. "Out! Back off! Back off! They're fighting! They're fighting! Is he crazy? This Jiang Shankin wants to fight in a martial cultivation tower." Jiang Shankin's inner strength surged. He stared at Zhou Fu and said word by word, "The sect members all say that Zhou Fui's martial arts are powerful. Furthermore, my disappointing brother was taught a lesson by you. I'm not that talented, but I would like to experience your skills." A gust of hot air spread out. At that moment, Jiang Shankin's hands had turned crimson red. There seemed to be flames flowing under the skin of his hands. "Kill!" Jiang Shankin shouted. In the blink of an eye, his palms were already in front of Zhou Fu's chest. Oof. Although it happened suddenly, Zhou Fu was already prepared. He suddenly took half a step back, shook his arms, and met the attack with his fists. Boom! Fist and palm collided. Both of them let out a muffled groan and retreated. The blazing force traveled up Zhou Fu's arms, and wherever it went, it felt as if it was on fire. This was the inner strength of the Qianyang steel breaking hand. It was as hot as fire and unparalleled in its ferocity. Again, Jiang Shankin charged forward again. Red mist billowed around his hands like clouds of fire. The one who made the first move would have the upper hand. 2 streaks of crimson flames were aimed at Zhou Fu's vital spots on his chest. Bang! Zhou Fu clenched his fist and punched upwards, forcibly shaking off the flames. However, 2 streaks of fire streaked past his body, burning 2 pieces of his clothes. Jiang Shankin sneered. "You're just a trash who practices strength. Relying on your background, you want to become an external affairs emissary. You don't even know if you're alive to enjoy it." As he spoke, he continuously clapped his palms together, causing waves of heat to sweep out in all directions. "Since you're so good at blocking, come and have a taste of my palm." Jiang Shankin's palm shot out. His feet moved, and his palm changed 3 times in a row. At a very tricky angle, it passed through Zhou Fu's defense and hit his left chest. When the surrounding people saw that Zhou Fu's chest was hit, they were shocked. If Zhou Fu was killed today, everyone present would be in trouble. Bang! Bang! Zhou Fu took 2 steps back. After stabilizing his body, he frowned. His opponent's strength was not as good as his, and his defense was not as good as his. However, Jiang Shankin's speed was very fast. His attack speed and agility were both above his. Moreover, Jiang Shankin, who was in the bone forging realm, had very hard bones. After taking a punch from him, although it was not his full strength, it did not seem to be a big problem. This fight was very depressing. Squeak, just when Zhou Fu was thinking of countermeasures, a sound came from his heart. This sound could only be heard by him. This is heart-refining parasite. A little thing that Zhou Fu had almost forgotten was actually active at this time. In Zhou Fu's perception, there was a scarlet, jade-like bug the size of a human pinky and fingernail flapping its wings above his heart. A wave of fluctuation entered Zhou Fu's sea of consciousness. Happy, fragrant. This inexplicable emotion could be clearly felt by Zhou Fu. Squeak, another chirp was heard. Those scorching palm forces that rushed into Zhou Fu's body were like rivers returning to the sea, pouring into the heart-refining parasite. Squeak, another sound. A strange force flowed out of the parasite's body. It was warm, like a hot spring, very comfortable. What is this thing? In the midst of this battle, Zhou Fu was stunned. Standing opposite Zhou Fu, Jiang Shankin, who was sneering, looked at Zhou Fu contemptuously. He was waiting for the palm force in his opponent's body to explode, and then he would be turned into a pile of charcoal in a miserable scream. As time passed, the sneer on Jiang Shankin's face slowly froze. What's going on? How long has it been? Why hasn't the palm force exploded? Clap, clap. In the eyes of a group of people, Zhou Fu raised his right hand and patted the clothes in front of his chest as if he was dusting off the dust. Zhou Fu raised his head and looked at Jiang Shankin, who was already a little dumbfounded, and said, "This is Ganyang's steel opening hand? 10 more palms." Saying this was not because Zhou Fu was arrogant, but because the heart-refining parasite in his heart was transmitting a feeling of hunger to him and expressed that it wanted to eat the palm force just now. In the beginning, after this heart-refining parasite was refined by him, he had a connection with this parasite. This connection was very strange. The parasite was like a dead thing in his body, and he did not know where Shan Jie and Yuer were. After a long time, he ignored this thing. Now, the function of this parasite was revealed. It could actually devour the fire attribute internal force in his body. Good heavens, doesn't this mean that people who cultivate fire attribute techniques will lose most of their threat in front of him? Bastard, what did you say? Jiang Shankin stared at Zhou Fu as if he was looking at an irreconcilable enemy. He was a genius in the second stage of the bone forging realm. If he made some more achievements, he would be promoted to the elite of the external affairs emissary. Now, he was being ridiculed by someone who was only at the strength refining stage in front of everyone. How could he, who was proud and arrogant, accept this? You deserve to die, boom. Jiang Shankin pushed the Qinyang steel opening hand to its peak. Streaks of crimson clouds surrounded his body, bringing along waves of heat that spread in all directions. It made the spectators feel as if they were standing in front of an iron furnace. You can fight, but if you damage anything here, give me 10 times the compensation otherwise. Oomph. The old man sitting on the side reminded him and then laid down on the chair, waiting for the show to start. 10 times. When I kill this bullshit emissary, I will give you 20 times the compensation. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground under Jiang Shankin's feet shattered instantly. He was like a fireball, rushing at Zhou Fu with extreme speed. Go to hell. Zhou Fu spread his feet apart, and with a bang, he stepped hard into the ground. He raised his hands, one in front and one behind, in a defensive posture, and stared excitedly at the big fireball in front of him. This was all food. Bang, 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 bang. Chapter 91. Zhou Fu and the red-eyed Jiang Shankin were locked in battle. Waves of energy exploded between the two of them. At this moment, as the battle dragged on, Zhou Fu's weakness of having a low cultivation base was gradually exposed. As an elite of the giant whale, Jiang Shankin's combat experience and martial arts attainment were all above Zhou Fu's. Every time he made a mistake, a series of attacks would follow. Moreover, Jiang Shankin's cultivation was one realm higher than Zhou Fu's. His speed and movement were not something that Zhou Fu could keep up with. However, that's all you got. That's all you got." Jiang Shankin gnashed his teeth as he said those words. He struck out with his palm. Midway, he lowered his shoulder, and the momentum of his palm changed. He avoided Zhou Fu's fist and hit Zhou Fu's shoulder with a bang. Blazing inner strength mixed with a huge force exploded, causing Zhou Fu's upper body to lean backward. Bang, bang, bang. The crimson palms came crashing down like waves, hitting Zhou Fu's body repeatedly. However, as the one with the advantage, Jiang Shankin was helpless. The situation where he was suppressing Zhou Fu had happened many times, but it was useless. Zhou Fu was as if he could not be injured. At this time, he also remembered that the person who reported to him mentioned that Zhou Fu's cultivation was average, but his body was made of copper skin and iron bones. He was born with great strength and was very difficult to deal with. Bastard, copper skin and iron bones can block my Qianyang palm force. Bullshit. F*CKU. Jiang Shankin cursed angrily and sent Zhou Fu flying with another palm strike. With a tap of his foot, he leaped backwards. This time, Zhou Fu was unhappy. Although he was being suppressed by his opponent, he was the one who benefited the most. From the beginning, every 3 moves, Zhou Fu's opponent would find a flaw and beat him up. Until now, the two of them had only exchanged a few dozen moves. His opponent could not find a flaw. Moreover, these flaws were reflected in his cultivation, not the flaws in his moves. Not only that, Zhou Fu was also able to find the gaps in his opponent's attacks and launch a short attack. This kind of obvious improvement made him quite excited. The most excited thing was still the refinement heart goo worm. The endless stream of blazing inner strength made it feel good. Moreover, while it was devouring the opponent's force, it was also feeding back a strange energy that flowed into Zhou Fu's body. This power spread out, slowly and steadily improving Zhou Fu's body. It was an all-round improvement. The changes in his body attracted Zhou Fu's attention. This gentle method of improvement gave him an idea. In the future, he should find more people who practice fire attribute cultivation methods to spar with. When Jiang Shankin's attacks stopped, Zhou Fu, who was gradually addicted to leveling up, felt somewhat displeased. He was still enjoying himself, so why did the other party stop? What was the difference between this and not being able to loosen one's belt when one was in the mood? Zhou Fu frowned and looked very unhappy. He looked at Jiang Shankin and said, "Don't stop, continue." As soon as he said this, the surrounding people were dumbfounded and then looked at Jiang Shankin with strange eyes. As a member of the giant whale, he had cultivated to the 2nd level of bone forging in his 20s. It was not a problem to say that he had outstanding talent. He had joined the giant whale since he was young. At the beginning of his cultivation, he had shown outstanding talent and had grown to his current level smoothly. This had also fostered his arrogance, but he had the right to be arrogant. The younger generation in the sect also respected him, and the older generation also supported him. But now, with his 2nd level of bone forging cultivation, he was unable to take down a cultivator of strength training. Instead, he was ridiculed in public by his opponent. What was even more ironic was that he was the one who started this battle. Zhou Fu's words were like cold water being poured into a hot pan of oil, exploding. Jiang Shankin suddenly opened his eyes wide, and blood vessels instantly crawled up his eyeballs. "You bastard, I'm going to kill you." The red mist surrounding Jiang Shankin suddenly stopped moving and entered his body like a bird flying into the forest. Jiang Shankin's arms instantly grew in size, and his sleeves suddenly burned. Through the light of the fire, the skin on his arms had become incomparably red. Dying. The big red hand was like a burning stone tablet, falling down on Zhou Fu's head. The huge wind pressure was like the waves of the sea, rushing over wave after wave. Zhou Fu's eyes flashed with a faint golden light. The inner strength in his body crazily surged into his fists, and a copper color appeared. Like 2 copper hammers, they smashed towards the attacking palms. Boom! The violent airwaves swept in all directions, and the shattered stone slabs were wrapped in it, causing the crowd in the distance to cry out in pain. Zhou Fu only felt a strong force rushing towards him, pressing down on his shoulders. Then, there was a stifling feeling in his chest. The hot and violent force was like a river bursting through a dam, rushing into his body through his arms. Squeak, the heart-refining goo worm, screeched excitedly and jumped to his chest, which was the place where the blazing force converged. The goo insect spread its wings, and the hot inner strength rushed into the goo insect's body like a flood that had found a new channel. Wung, with the influx of inner strength, circles of red jade-like ripples, with the goo insect as the center spread out. Wherever the red light passed, it changed its previous gentle appearance and violently strengthened Zhou Fu's internal organs, meridians, and bones. Ugh! Zhou Fu's eyes widened, his throat was sticky, and the taste of blood rushed up. Puff, black and red blood flowed down the corner of his mouth. Being hit by the smell, his stomach churned. Zhou Fu's face was pale, and he resisted the urge to vomit. Jiang Shankin saw this expression, and he was overjoyed. He finally injured the other party. Trash! Whale in the fire! Jiang Shankin's eyes were full of violence. He approached Zhou Fu and sneered in a low voice. Thousand suns return. Countless red palm shadows surrounded Zhou Fu. Boom! There was an explosion. Zhou Fu was sent flying. Die! There was only madness left in Jiang Shankin's eyes. He knew that even if he killed Zhou Fu, the sect would not punish him. Instead, they would secretly reward him. After all, a dead external affairs emissary was not as useful as a rising genius. Moreover, this external affairs emissary had just joined the sect today. Jiang Shankin leaped, and the unique bone force of the bone forging realm surged out. A reddish-yellow fireball appeared between his palms. Kill! Boom! His palm slammed down and hit Zhou Fu's chest, and the hot force instantly exploded. Zhou Fu crashed into the wall, and with a boom, the wall of the martial cultivation tower collapsed, and the two of them flew out of the tower. Not good. Quickly informed the sect leader. Go, go, go. Let's go out and take a look. Oh my god, this is bad. After hitting the ground, Zhou Fu spat out a large mouthful of blood. Not only that, but blood also flowed out from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. Even the pores on his skin began to ooze blood. He. Ha ha. Jiang Shankin, who landed beside Zhou Fu, saw the miserable situation in front of him and laughed. Humiliation must be washed away with the blood of the enemy. Cough. Cough. After spitting out the blood, Zhou Fu felt very good. Although he looked miserable on the outside, he felt very good inside. There was a dog day when he opened a watermelon that had just been fished out from a deep well. He used a spoon to dig out a large piece of watermelon and stuffed it into his mouth. How carefree was that? How satisfying was that? He still wanted more. Chapter 92. Squeak, the heart-refining voodoo insect, let out a satisfied cry, as if it had just finished a big meal and was rubbing its stomach. Then, it slowly returned to Zhou Fu's mind and calmed down. At this moment, Zhou Fu, who was still lying on the ground, was in a better condition than ever before. He sat up and stood up under Jiang Shankin's confused gaze. You're fine. Looking at Zhou Fu's calm expression, Jiang Shankin felt cold and unreal. He had used 120% of his strength in that attack. Even a peak bone forging realm or a first blood refining realm cultivator would not dare to take it head on, let alone a strength refining realm cultivator. However, Zhou Fu, who was only at the strength refining realm, not only did he take it head on, but he was also fine. Jiang Shankin looked at Zhou Fu's face and the bloodstains on his body. He suddenly felt that it was very fake, but it was also very real. At this moment, the people who were watching from upstairs also ran down. When they saw the scene, they were also stunned. What's going on? I don't know. Wasn't Zhou Fu beaten to death by Jiang Shankin? Why does he look fine now? Could it be the final radiance of the setting sun? F***CK. Is this the final radiance of the setting sun in your family? All of you, shut up and watch. At the hole in the wall on the second floor of the Martial Cultivation Tower, the old man from before stuck his head out and looked at Zhou Fu with a puzzled expression. It can't be. Even if he has copper skin and iron bones, he is only at the strength-refining realm. How can he take on the bone-forging realm's Ganyang steel breaking hand with his full strength and still be fine? Isn't this nonsense? This kid is strange. Boom! Two powerful auras surged from the whale gang's headquarters one after the other. They quickly rushed towards the combat cultivation tower. Who dares to cause trouble in the martial cultivation tower? Zhou Fu's eyes moved. He could tell that this was the voice of the giant whale's leader, Xing Gang. Leader, it's inconvenient for you to take action. Leave this to me. This time, it was the deputy leader, Shilong. A flaming cloud appeared in the sky. In just over 10 seconds, the flaming cloud had already arrived above the combat cultivation tower. Shilong, you actually reached the blood transformation realm? This is... Bastard, you actually practiced the Bloodfire True Force. Why do you have to be angry, Sect Master? We're all working for the Xing family. Shilong's calm voice came out from the fiery red clouds, with a hint of sarcasm. Bastard. A large amount of pale golden fog appeared above the giant whale. It rolled over and over rapidly, gathering into a cloud and emitting a heavy pressure. Do you really think I don't dare to touch you? Xing Gang's voice was like thunder. Of course I wouldn't dare. However, I'll put this matter aside for now. Let's deal with the matter at hand first, lest the juniors laugh at us. Around the martial cultivation building, the people who were resisting the pressure in the air all trembled in fear after hearing those words. Then, they quickly retreated, turned around, and left. Standing beside Zhou Fu, Jiang Shanken's expression suddenly changed. Kill! A mournful roar came out of his mouth, and two crimson palm shadows blasted towards Zhou Fu. The sudden change stunned Zhou Fu. He never thought that Jiang Shanken would actually dare to make a move at this time. How dare you? Jiang Shanken, you are courting death. Xing Gang was burning with anger. He felt that his authority was being challenged. Zhou Fu's eyes were cold. It was too late to block at this time. His mind turned quickly, and he instantly made a decision. His hand shot out at lightning speed. Instead of blocking, he let go of Jiang Shanken's palms and firmly locked onto Jiang Shanken's arms. Then, he suddenly exerted force with his feet. The huge force, mixed with the momentum of the attack, brought Jiang Shanken backwards. 5 meters away, the two of them landed on the ground. Jiang Shanken's palms hit Zhou Fu's chest with a bang. Blazing inner strength exploded, and the force rushed into Zhou Fu's body. Squeak, the heart, refining goo insect chirped, and the blazing force that rushed into the door dissipated instantly. Oh! Jiang Shanken suddenly screamed. He widened his eyes and looked at his arms in horror. He saw that Zhou Fu's 10 fingers were like iron hooks, deeply inserted into Jiang Shanken's forearms. Dark red blood flowed out uncontrollably. You're done. It's my turn now. The two of them were close to each other. Zhou Fu's eyes were filled with a fierce light. He stared at Jiang Shanken's eyes and whispered. Then, he suddenly exerted force with his right hand and tightly grasped Jiang Shanken's forearm. This time, almost half of his fingers were inserted into Jiang Shanken's flesh. Crack! The eerie white bones suddenly burst out of the skin and pierced out from under Jiang Shanken's forearm. In the midst of the miserable scream, Zhou Fu kicked out. Bang! The sharp pain spread from his knee, and Jiang Shanken bent down subconsciously. As the saying goes, take your life when you are sick. Zhou Fu withdrew his leg that kicked out and raised his knee to strike. With a crack, it hit Jiang Shanken's face. Blood splattered everywhere, and even the miserable scream stopped. The huge force knocked Jiang Shanken into the air with his face up. Looking at the dazed Jiang Shanken, Zhou Fu naturally wouldn't let go of someone who wanted to kill him so easily. His elbow was like a knife, and with a bang, it ruthlessly pierced into Jiang Shanken's chest. The huge force exploded, and with a crack, a large mouthful of blood spurted out from Jiang Shanken's mouth. This ferocious strike also sent the other party flying. So what if you're a bone-forging expert? I still broke your bones. Zhou Fu sneered. After he was strengthened by the heart-refining goo worm, his body's strength increased again and became even more terrifying. It allowed him to break the sternum of a second-stage bone forging expert. Impudent! An angry shout exploded in the air. Zhou Fu, you dare to commit murder in public. I will definitely punish you severely for harming the sect members. Boom! A huge pressure descended from the sky. At this moment, all the hair on Zhou Fu's body stood up. This is the martial cultivation tower, not the martial arts practice field. If anyone dares to attack again, this old man will cripple him. A hand that was as clear as red jade stopped 3 inches in front of Zhou Fu's face. The owner of this hand was naturally Shilong. Shilong's face showed signs of struggle, and the hatred in his eyes overflowed. Little kid, don't you understand what I'm saying? A dark golden hand appeared out of thin air. With a bang, it swatted Shilong away as if he was swatting a mosquito. Zhou Fu didn't look at Shilong, who was slapped away. Instead, he raised his head and looked at the hole on the second floor of the martial cultivation tower. In front of the hole, the old man who looked after the tower stood there. You'll pay back 10 times for destroying my martial cultivation tower. Remember to fix it tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll skin you alive. At this moment, Xing Gang's figure appeared beside Zhou Fu. He cupped his hands towards the second floor and said, Uncle, don't worry. I'll definitely satisfy you tomorrow. Okay, since there's nothing else, get lost. After he finished speaking, the old man who Xing Gang addressed as Uncle turned around and left. At this moment, Shilong walked over expressionlessly. There was a very conspicuous handprint on his face. He bowed to Xing Gang and said, Gang leader, I was so anxious when I saw the gang members killing each other that I nearly committed a grave mistake. Please punish me. At this point, there was no point in slandering Zhou Fu. The old man in the martial cultivation tower wasn't just Xing Gang's uncle. He was also an elder of the Xing family. The Xing family was the backer of the giant whale, just like the Zhu family was the backer of the Red Sea gang. Since the big boss had already spoken, how could a worker like him have any complaints? As long as he admitted his mistake obediently, Xing Gang wouldn't be able to do anything to him. One had to know that Xing Gang wasn't the only member of the Xing family in this generation. You're very good. Xing Gang resisted the urge to slap the other party to death and shouted, Get lost. I'll take my leave. Chapter 93. The crowd dispersed, leaving only Zhou Fu and Xing Gang. Xing Gang looked at the blood on Zhou Fu's body and asked with concern, Brother Zhou, your injuries, cough cough. Zhou Fu coughed twice. Thank you for your concern, Brother Xing. I'm fine, I can still hold on. Xing Gang's brows furrowed deeply when he saw her miserable and sorrowful appearance. Take this bottle of medicine. Xing Gang took out a porcelain bottle and handed it to Zhou Fu. Take 1 pill a day for 3 days and your internal injuries will be fine. Zhou Fu took the bottle and cupped his hands. Thank you, gang leader. Xing Gang shook his head. We're brothers, no need to be so polite. He paused for a moment, then said in a low voice, Don't worry about Shilong. I'll take care of it. You go back and treat your injuries first. Leave? No, he couldn't. Otherwise, all the anger he'd suffered today would have been for nothing. Gang leader, can I choose a cultivation method first? I wanted to choose a cultivation method when I came out of the hall, but then I got involved in this mess. I haven't decided yet. Xing Gang paused for a moment, then nodded. Okay, which one does Brother Zhou want? 2. Xing Gang frowned. 2. At this moment, the giant whale's internal affairs elder, Kong Yu Tsung, rushed over. Gang leader, Brother Zhou. Xing Gang said to Kong Yu Tsung, You came at the right time. Brother Zhou wants to choose 2 cultivation methods. Register them and send them to him. I'm going to see my uncle. The old man is a little unhappy. Kong Yu Tsung replied, I understand. After Xing Gang left, Kong Yu Tsung looked at Zhou Fu and asked, Brother Zhou, which 2 cultivation methods do you want? Zhou Fu replied, One is Flying Dragon's 5 Leaps. I wanted to choose a fist technique, but now Zhou Fu had a flash of inspiration. I wonder if Elder Kong can help me think of something? Let me think of something for you. Kong Yu Tsung was speechless. He thought for a moment, then nodded. Okay, you can go back first. I'll get someone to send the cultivation methods to the Elysium tomorrow. Zhou Fu thanked him. If that's the case, then I thank Elder Kong. Kong Yu Sung's eyes flashed. Brother Zhou, it's all gang leaders' arrangements. Since you're injured, you should go treat your injuries first. Goodbye. Looking at Zhou Fu's departing figure, Kong Yu Sung shook his head, then turned and entered the Martial Cultivation Tower. On the second floor of the Martial Cultivation Tower, at the hole in the wall, Xing Gang's back was facing Kong Yu Sung as he asked, "How was it?" That kid is also a slippery one. He chose Flying Dragon's 5 leaps and asked me to recommend a fist technique. He asked you to recommend a fist technique? What did you choose? At this moment, Kong Yu Sung walked to Xing Gang's side, half a step behind him. I don't know what the gang leader is going to give him. Give him what? Xing Gang smiled. He didn't answer directly, but sighed. Yaozong, did you know that Shilong cultivated blood-fire true energy and reached the blood-changing realm? Kong Yu Sung was shocked. He lowered his head and replied, I didn't know. Blood-fire true energy. Third brother, Xing Gang muttered for a while, then turned to Kong Yu Sung and said, if that's the case, give the tyrannical whale fist to Zhou Fu. I really want to know what will happen to those who are born with great strength after cultivating this technique. Tyrannical whale fist? Why? Do you have a question? Kong Yu Sung quickly shook his head. No, what kind of fist technique is tyrannical whale fist? I've never heard of it. It's the demonic whale fist. How about it? I just changed the name. After saying that, he raised his eyebrows at Kong Yu Sung. Gulp, Kong Yaozong swallowed his saliva with difficulty. His eyes were filled with shock. Demonic, whale, killing, fist, crazy. They were all crazy. How could they casually take out this kind of high-grade, Earth-class evil technique? Xing Gang suddenly sighed with emotion. King against king, general against general. Kong Yu Sung was shocked again. He never thought that Xing Gang would have such a high evaluation of Zhou Fu. So, a small pawn should be a small pawn to fight. If I fight, I'll dirty my hands. My family will also laugh at me. I can't afford to lose face. But now that third brother has made his move, I can't just watch and wait for Zhou Fu to kill Shilong. Sect Master, Kong Yu Sung said, Zhou Fu is only at the strength training stage, but Shilong is already at the blood transformation stage. Xing Gang smiled. I've given you a chance. If Zhou Fu can't beat him, then let Shilong kill him. Xing Gang's brother has been killed, so it shouldn't be a problem for me to take revenge, right? When the time comes, I'll kill Shilong first, then break third brother's legs. He. Ha ha ha. Whoosh, a gust of wind blew past, and Xing Gang disappeared. Sigh. A sigh suddenly sounded, scaring Kong Yu Sung. He quickly turned around, and when he saw who it was, he quickly bowed. Greetings, Elder Xing Jingtu. The keeper of the Martial Cultivation Tower was an elder of the Xing family, not the giant whales. Kids these days are so troublesome. Xing Jingtu shook his head, his eyes full of disdain. Since you can't stand each other, then fight. Whoever wins is in the right. Now, all of you only know how to play dirty tricks behind people's backs. You're all a bunch of trash. After scolding for a while, Xing Jingtu turned his gaze to Kong Yu Sung and snorted. What are you looking at? You're not a good person either. Elder, I smacked. 2 books were thrown into Kong Yu Sung's arms. He looked down and saw that they were Flying Dragon's 5 zigzags and Overlord Whale Fist. He even changed the names? Kong Yu Sung raised his head and looked at Xing Jingtu's departing figure. This old man didn't seem to be a good person either. The next day at the Elysium, Zhou Fu looked at the 2 secret manuals and a picture scroll on the table. He felt strange. Why was there another picture? Overlord Whale Fist? This name, Earth-level high-grade. It comes with the Blood Sea Demon Whale painting. Whoosh! Zhou Fu's pupils shrank. As the picture scroll unfolded, the room was filled with a faint smell of blood. On the picture scroll, the boundless sea of blood divided heaven and earth into 2 parts. Below, there were layers upon layers of corpses. Above the sea of blood, a huge demon whale floated quietly, emitting a terrifying aura. This picture scroll had 3 colors: red, black and white. The strong visual impact made Zhou Fu's breathing become heavy. Smack! The scroll was abruptly closed. Damn, too demonic huff. Zhou Fu breathed heavily, as expected of a demon whale. Too demonic. At this time, he had an impulse to kill and destroy everything in front of him. Even the blood and qi in his body were surging. There was no need to look at Flying Dragon's 5 zigzags. He could just use the supplementary skill to level it up. Facing Overlord Whale Fist, Zhou Fu hesitated. If he leveled up this Earth-level technique too quickly, it would definitely be noticed. Not to mention, I only asked for a fist technique, but he gave me the Earth-level high-grade Overlord Whale Fist. If there's nothing wrong with it, then there must be something wrong. The scariest thing in the world was someone being nice to you for no reason. It was so nice that it was beyond what you could accept. It's impossible to turn it back, but why? Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. Zhou Fu's eyes widened. Damn, that Xingang can't be asking me to kill Shilong, right? Mother of asterisk her, there's a difference of 2 major realms between us. Is there something wrong with Xingang's head? Chapter 94. After Zhou Fu understood why Xingang gave him the Tyrant Whale Fist, he felt helpless and aggrieved. I just want to be a quiet, rich kid. Why do people always force me? Bang! The table shook violently. It was Zhou Fu who had slapped the table in his agitation. Since that's the case, don't regret it. Level up. Ding! Flying Dragon's pentagonal leveled up. A few small streams of heat rose up from under his feet, causing the muscles and meridians on his legs to vibrate. The streams of heat continued to rise and finally gathered in his dantian before calming down. Flying Dragon's pentagonal. Level 1, light body level 1, dexterity level 1 again. Ding! Flying Dragon's pentagonal leveled up. The streams of heat rose up again, causing his blood vessels to burst out of his body. His muscles were being squeezed under the heat, pulling out the lines of Flying Dragon's pentagonal. After changing his legs, the streams of heat returned to his dantian. Flying Dragon's pentagonal. Level 2, light body level 2, dexterity level 2. Zhou Fu looked at his value on the screen. Status: 87% energy, 0 yesterday. After Zhou Fu's battle at the Giant Whale's Combat Cultivation Building, his body was completely strengthened by the heart-refining goo. His status was at 85%. After eating the pill that Xingang gave him, he was pleasantly surprised to find that his status had increased by 5 points. It was now at 90%. I've used 3 points. I feel like I can do it a few more times. Level up. Flying Dragon's pentagonal. Level 3. Light body level 3. Dexterity level 3. Durability level 1. Boom. Zhou Fu's blood qi began to vibrate, turning into a torrent that quickly flowed towards his legs. After gathering a large amount of blood qi, his legs were like iron, constantly being tempered. This time, it wasn't just his muscles that were being tempered. Even his bones were being strengthened. This feeling is quite satisfying. Zhou Fu's legs couldn't stop trembling. Small beads of sweat flowed out of the pores on his legs. After 10 minutes, the strengthening was complete. He called out his status panel. Status: 78%. Damn, I actually used 9 points. Wait, what's up with this Illusionary Moon body movement skill? Illusory Moon body movement skill. Level 1. Lightness level 1. Evasion level 1. He had been demoted. His Illusionary Moon body movement skill, which was at the 2nd level, had been demoted after Flying Dragon's 5 vertical movements reached the 3rd level. What do you mean? Incompatible? That's not right either. Zhou Fu looked at his martial arts page doubtfully. There were a lot of martial arts that strengthened his physique, but none of them conflicted with each other. That's strange. If I were to level up 2 more times, would this Illusionary Moon movement skill be gone? Unable to figure it out, Zhou Fu could only helplessly give up. Forget it. Let's put it aside for now. Zhou Fu stood up, feeling light. He knew that this was the after effect of continuously breaking through the Flying Dragon's 5 vertical Flying Dragons. After 2 days, he would be fine once he got used to it. He opened the door and walked out of the room. This was an independent courtyard that originally belonged to the previous ruler of the Elysium. However, it now belonged to Zhou Fu. When the servants in the courtyard saw Zhou Fu come out, they hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, sir." Zhou Fu nodded. He was already very used to this kind of situation. "Is the meal ready?" "It's ready. Sir, you can eat at any time." When Zhou Fu came to the dining table, there were already more than 15 kilograms of cooked meat on it. Steam rose up, and the fragrance filled the air. In addition, there were 2 large plates of green vegetables that weighed about 10 kilograms. These things were Zhou Fu's meat and vegetables for lunch. As Zhou Fu continued to eat, the essence will started to operate on its own. It turned the food he ate into small streams of heat, and then guided these streams of heat into the essence wheel to store them. More than 10 minutes later, with the help of the essence wheel, Zhou Fu finished all the food on the table. He patted his stomach and said to the maids standing at the side, "In the future, add another 10 kilograms of meat. Forget it, add another 20 kilograms. Add another 20 kilograms for every meal." The maid trembled and replied with some fear, "Yes, sir. I'll remember it." After saying that, the maidservant ran out quickly, for fear that Zhou Fu was not full and would swallow her up again. Zhou Fu got up and walked from the dining table to the door. In less than 10 steps, the food in his stomach had already been digested, and the essence qi in the essence will had increased a bit. 3 meals, 60 to 70 kilograms of cooked meat, 15 kilograms of vegetables, and a pill given by Xing Gang. Only then was the Yang Ming wheel full. "Since I've finished digesting, let's start cultivating." Standing in an empty courtyard, Zhou Fu closed his eyes. In his mind, he was thinking about the moves of the tyrannical whale fist. Step forward, punch. The moves of the tyrannical whale fist were slowly being practiced by Zhou Fu. Once, twice, from unfamiliar to familiar, he used it 5 times. Zhou Fu said helplessly, "Sigh, too slow. It's more comfortable to cheat. Level up." Ding! Tyrannical whale fist leveled up. Tyrannical whale fist, level 1. Level 1 advanced strength amplification. Level 1 advanced strength condensation. Level 1 demonic will. Level 1 killing intent. Boom. The essence qi in Zhou Fu's body went berserk. It was as if cold water had been poured into a pot of boiling oil. The boiling essence qi brought about a high temperature. His skin was as red as a cooked lobster. At this moment, the boiling essence qi gathered at his chest and kept compressing. It wasn't until a trace of weakness rose from his body that Zhou Fu realized that his essence qi was empty. Just as Zhou Fu was about to take out a pill to resist, the Yang Ming will suddenly released a large amount of essence qi into his body. This is, the essence will could actually convert essence qi. Zhou Fu had always thought that the energy stored in the Yang Ming wheel was for when he was hungry. He didn't expect it to be able to convert essence qi. This discovery left Zhou Fu completely dumbfounded. What a heaven-defying technique. Before he could think further, the huge amount of essence qi squeezed into a ball in his chest. Then, there was a tremor. Zhou Fu's body shook violently, and the ball shattered. Poochie, in Zhou Fu's perception, a blood-red pony appeared. Streams of heat flowed out from its body and rushed towards Zhou Fu's body. Boom! There was a loud sound. The stone slab under Zhou Fu's feet instantly shattered. His feet stepped into the ground. Without waiting for Zhou Fu to catch his breath, the pale, golden inner strength in his body began to circulate. It was no longer as gentle as before. Like a raging river, it rushed into the unopened meridians. Crackle! The crisp sound of bones continuously rang out from Zhou Fu's body. Boom! The 5th meridian was opened. The pale golden inner strength didn't slow down and rushed into the 6th meridian. Boom! 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 The surging inner strength was like a flood. The meridian was like a dried-up river. Amidst the roaring of the waves, the 6th meridian was opened. After opening 2 meridians, Zhou Fu didn't feel relaxed. At this moment, he could feel the meridians all over his body beginning to swell and hurt. At this moment, his face was very ugly. He only improved the tyrant whale fist. How could it cause such a chain reaction? He knew that the worst was yet to come. According to the characteristics of inner strength, every time 3 meridians were opened, the human body would be strengthened. This should be a good thing. However, at this moment, Zhou Fu's condition wasn't good. The breakthrough was too fast, and he didn't have time to adapt to the power in his body. The strengthening had begun. Boom! A powerful qi wave shook out from Zhou Fu's body. Under his feet, the shattered ground turned into a half-meter deep pit. Amidst the smoke and dust, a series of terrifying roars could be heard. Chapter 95. When the dust settled, Zhou Fu's disheveled figure was revealed. He looked as if he had been fighting for hours. His clothes were tattered, his hair was disheveled, and his face was plastered with sweat. "Mr. Zhou, are you okay?" As the Elysium's manager, Jean Peng had rushed over with his men when he noticed the abnormality in the courtyard. When he arrived, the small courtyard was filled with smoke and dust. Moreover, the roars that shook one's soul made him not dare to act rashly. When the dust settled and Zhou Fu's figure was revealed, he hurriedly went forward to ask about it. Zhou Fu took a deep breath and suppressed the heat in his heart. He said in a hoarse voice, "I'm fine. Prepare some bathwater for me, and then have someone bring me some nourishing medicine. That's right. Help me fix up the courtyard. Make it look like a training ground." Jean Ping opened his mouth, then replied, "Yes, I'll do it right away." Actually, he shouldn't be doing these things. However, since Zhou Fu was his boss and a newcomer, he agreed to it first. He planned to find time to explain to Zhou Fu in private. Otherwise, he felt that he would be very busy in the future. After arranging everything, Zhou Fu turned to leave. Suddenly, a small voice came from the crowd. How impressive! Everyone present was a martial arts practitioner. Those with sharp ears and eyes naturally heard what he said. Zhou Fu stopped in his tracks, turned around, and looked in the direction of the voice. He said calmly, "Who said that? Come forward." No one answered. Jean Peng said carefully, "Mr. Zhou, this is an accident. Why don't you what? Who said that? Come forward." The giant whale situation made Zhou Fu very angry. Now, there were still people who didn't know their place and came forward to cause trouble. He wasn't going to let them be. The people in the courtyard were all veterans of the Elysium. As for Zhou Fu, he was a newcomer to the Elysium. It was said that he had taken the back door and relied on his connections with the elders to get to such a high position. This made some people very unhappy. Now, hearing Zhou Fu's unyielding words, the anger in some people's hearts soared. The giant whale was not a place where good people gathered. Moreover, these people were in charge of the gambling house. Which one of them had not killed a few people? I said it. What's wrong? A man in his 30s came out, his face full of anger. He stared at Zhou Fu and said, "Am I wrong? When Boss Lu was still around, did he ever order us around like this? He's just a newbie who relied on his connections to get here. What's with the pretense?" "Who is Boss Lu?" Zhou Fu turned to look at Jean Peng. In reply to my lord, Boss Lu was the original leader of this place. At the same time, he was also our sect's external affairs emissary. His position was the same as yours. Later on, he died in a great battle. I see. Zhou Fu nodded. He looked at the man and said, "Since you miss external affairs emissary Lu so much, then you can go follow him." As soon as Zhou Fu finished speaking, the crowd suddenly lost sight of him. "Not good. My lord, don't. Old Zhu, be careful." Zhou Fu appeared again and punched out. In an instant, his fist landed on the man's forehead. Bang! The man's head suddenly shattered, and a large cloud of bloody mist drifted out. The headless corpse was still standing on the spot. It swayed twice, then fell to the ground with a bang. So this is the tyrannical whale fist? Seeing the result of his attack, Zhou Fu was stunned. He did not expect the tyrannical whale fist to be so domineering. This attack only used qi and blood. It was the purest form of strength. After coming back to his senses, Zhou Fu felt a trace of satisfaction in his heart, as if he wanted a few more punches. The bloody mist that filled the air also emitted a sweet smell. Zhou Fu's body trembled. He activated the Wisdom King scripture, and the strange thought dissipated. He looked around and asked calmly, Who else has any objections? The crowd in the courtyard looked at the headless corpse on the ground in horror. They were very familiar with that person. He was one of Boss Lou's trusted aides. He was at the peak of strength, refining, and half a step into the bone-forging realm. Yet, he was beaten to this state by Zhou Fu with one punch. He did not even have a chance to react. The pressure of death caused everyone present to fall silent. At this moment, they no longer looked at Zhou Fu with disdain. Only fear and dread were left in their eyes. Since no one has any objections, then deal with this matter. It was not until Zhou Fu left that the crowd in the courtyard dared to disperse. News of the Elysium quickly spread to the headquarters. Murder? Xing Gang, who was originally lying on the bed, suddenly sat up. He stared at Kong Yutsung, who came to report, and said, "Tell me, what happened?" Yes. According to the report, Zhou Fu seemed to have a breakthrough this afternoon, which caused a big commotion. Then, Elysium's guards rushed over. One of the guards had a conflict with Zhou Fu. Then, that guard's head was shattered by Zhou Fu's punch, but his body was still standing straight. Xing Gang's jaw dropped, and his eyes widened. Really? Kong Yutsung nodded. The Elysium's guards can testify. Oh my God. Xing Gang sucked in a breath of cold air. Golden light flashed in his eyes. Slowly, the corner of his mouth became wider and wider. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. Amidst his loud laughter, he said good more than 10 times in a row. Genius. What a genius. The laughter disappeared. Xing Gang stared at Kong Yutsung seriously and said, "Do you know what it means to use less than a day to master the demonic whale killing fist?" Without waiting for Kong Yutsung to reply, he continued, "It means that the kid has a very high talent, the kind that's terrifying." Then a strange smile appeared on his face. Unfortunately, no, fortunately, Shilong interfered and disrupted his plan, allowing me to give him the demonic whale killing fist. Ha ha! So it feels so good to destroy a genius. So good. After Xing Gang finished laughing, Kong Yutsung cautiously reminded him, "Gang leader, although the tyrannical whale killing fist has its flaws, I have to say that its power is too strong. It's even more terrifying than some heaven-class techniques. You have to be careful. A blade can hurt others, but it can also hurt yourself." Xing Gang was stunned. After thinking for a while, he nodded and said, "You're right. I originally thought that the kid only had some talent. Who would have thought that he was actually a genius?" After getting off the bed, Xing Gang paced back and forth in the room. Geniuses are really annoying. They're just like my boss. They can't be judged using normal logic. To put it bluntly, they're like God's illegitimate children. No, let me think. Xing Gang crossed his arms and leaned against the pillar. Kong Yutsung suggested, "How about we kill him before he discovers the flaws in the tyrannical whale killing fist?" Kill him? Xing Gang rolled his eyes. Kill him, and you'll fight with Shilong? Kong Yutsung hurriedly shook his head. The reason why he was able to get to where he was now was because he had been following Xing Gang since he was young and helped him with his work. Also, he was smart and had a lot of ideas. As for his cultivation, it was all thanks to Xing Gang's various pills. Pills! A flash of inspiration appeared. Kong Yutsung said, "Gang leader, I have an idea. Not only should we not suppress Zhou Fu's growth, we should also help him improve." Oh, Xing Gang looked at his think tank and asked, "What do you mean?" "The tyrannical whale-killing fist requires a large amount of blood and qi. Let's provide Zhou Fu with blood and qi pills. Let him grow quickly. Then, we'll incite hatred between him and Shilong. Let them both be injured, and then we'll make our move." Xing Gang thought for a while. That Shilong isn't an idiot. He'll know about Zhou Fu's current situation. Kong Yutsung smiled. Shilong is a sly old fox, but he still has family and subordinates. Xing Gang stared at Kong Yutsung, the corner of his mouth twitching. "As expected of you." Chapter 96. "Sir, the people you are looking for have been brought here." Jin Peng leaned to the side, revealing Ma Shuping and Yu Zhu behind him. "Young master." The two looked at Zhou Fu in surprise. Zhou Fu nodded, indicating for the two to calm down. He then said to Jean Peng, I brought these two from home. He pointed to Yu Zhu and introduced, This is Yu Zhu. She is usually in charge of my food and clothing. This, he then pointed to Ma Shuping, is my housekeeper. He is in charge of all the chores in the courtyard. This is Jean Peng, the Elysium shopkeeper. Hearing the word shopkeeper, Jean Peng hurriedly said, I don't dare. I can't be a shopkeeper. A shopkeeper's status was much higher than a housekeeper's. With his qualifications, he was still not qualified. If I say you are, then you are. Zhou Fu calmly confirmed Jean Peng's position. This subordinate thanks, sir. Jean Peng's eyes were filled with surprise. In today's Elysium, no one dared to oppose Zhou Fu's words. After all, the scene of Zhou Fu killing someone at the pinnacle of the training stage with one punch was deeply imprinted in their hearts. One must know that among the Elysium's bodyguards, the one with the highest cultivation was the unlucky one who was killed. If the most powerful one was killed with one punch, they would have died even more miserably. Zhou Fu then said to Ma Shuping and Yu Zhu, If the two of you encounter any problems, you could discuss it with Jean Peng. Yes, I understand, young master. This time, Jean Peng was even happier. In this way, he no longer needed to be Zhou Fu's housekeeper. At this moment, two bodyguards walked in from outside the courtyard. Sir, there's a letter from the headquarters. Headquarters? The guard at the back stepped forward with a box in his hand. He bowed to Zhou Fu and said, Greetings, Sir Envoy. Zhou Fu nodded and asked, Is there any news from the headquarters? My lord, the sect leader was worried about your injuries and specially gave you a blood chi pill. Blood and chi pill? What the hell? The guard held the box in his hand and handed it over. Seeing Zhou Fu accept the box, the guard said, This great blood chi pill is a top-notch medicinal pill. It can increase the vitality of martial artists below the extraordinary level. Moreover, the medicinal effect is mild. One pill per month will not cause any harm to the body. There are a total of 12 pills inside. After explaining, the guard cupped his fists and said, The things have been delivered. I will go back to report. After the guard left, Jean Peng was still in shock. At the same time, he looked at Zhou Fu with even more caution. Because of one sentence, Zhou Fu killed a gang member. Not only was he not held accountable by the headquarters, but he was also given a medicinal pill that ordinary people dreamed of. This was beyond his understanding. Congratulations, my lord. After obtaining this divine pill, my lord's cultivation will definitely rise to another level. Zhou Fu opened the box. Inside were 12 pills wrapped in wax. Looking at these round balls, he asked, doubtfully, Is it really that amazing? This sentence stunned Jean Peng for a moment. Then, he thought of Zhou Fu's background and did not find it strange. My lord, even the elders in the sect can't get a medicinal pill of this level so easily. But today, my lord was given 12 pills by the sect leader. This is really... For a moment, he could not find the words to express his feelings. After being excited for a long time, he still couldn't say anything. He could only take his leave. Before he left, he looked at Ma Shuping. Brother Ma, please follow me. There are some matters in Lord Zhou's courtyard that I need to hand over to you. Okay. After the two of them left, Yu Zhu also left. She said that this courtyard still needed a few maids to do work, and she wanted to choose them herself. After everyone left, the courtyard returned to silence. Zhou Fu took out a medicinal pill and looked at it curiously. Blood and chi pill? Even the elders have a hard time getting it? The wax-wrapped medicinal pill spun in his hand. Haha, is it really that good? Zhou Fu used his fingers to gently exert force, and the wax-wrapped medicinal pill shattered with a snap. What the hell is this smell? Could it be that you took the wrong medicinal pill and sent the poisonous pill over? The pungent smell rushed to his head, and Zhou Fu's eyes were even filled with tears. Staring at the medicinal pill, Zhou Fu hesitated for a moment, but finally decided to give a try. As the medicinal pill entered his mouth, the spicy taste spread. However, the spicy taste quickly dissipated, and the taste was somewhat like tangerine peel. It was sweet and tasted good. Gulp! As the medicinal pill entered his stomach, a warm and cool feeling spread from his stomach. At this moment, Zhou Fu's eyes flashed, and the Yangming wheel began to operate. Thick streams of essence qi were sucked out of his stomach and poured into his body. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes. The Yangming wheel suddenly felt full, and the essence in his stomach showed no signs of weakening. Zhou Fu was shocked, and his eyes lit up. This is good stuff. I must get the craftsmanship of this thing. He remembered what Jean Peng said before. It could be used by anyone below the extraordinary level. This was simply good news for him. At this moment, the Yangming wheel was no longer devouring the essence in his stomach. Zhou Fu didn't even think about it and directly upgraded the essence wheel. Upgrade. Ding! The essence wheel has leveled up. Essence wheel. Level 4, strengthened absorption level 4, special effect, qi and blood conversion. With the upgrade of the cultivation technique, the Yangming will begin to rotate again. At the same time, there was a warm current spreading from his stomach, and even the intestines below his stomach felt warm. Comfortable. It was like soaking in a hot spring in winter. Level 4 strengthening can already affect the intestines. If I continue to strengthen it, will I have to strengthen the entire digestive system? With some doubts, Zhou Fu continued to pay attention to the situation of the Yangming wheel and his own status. 10 minutes later, the essence emitted from his stomach began to slow down, but the Yangming wheel seemed to be full again. Psi upgrade. Zhou Fu was a little helpless. He didn't want to invest too much in the essence wheel at the moment. After all, he still had 2 solid martial arts that had not been upgraded. Ding! The essence wheel is leveled up. Essence wheel. Level 5, strengthened absorption level 5, special effect, qi and blood conversion. This time, Zhou Fu felt that his esophagus, stomach, and intestines were all wrapped up by warm air, becoming tougher little by little. At the same time, the speed at which the pills in his stomach were volatilized increased again. 2 minutes later, the pills were converted. Zhou Fu looked at his status value. 70%. It was about to fall to 60 plus. Besides, I have to upgrade the secret of Iron Bone and the art of bronze armor after a while. Zhou Fu, who was idle, called out the auxiliary interface and looked at the martial arts on it. He took advantage of the time when the status value was restored to sort out his own training routine to maximize his combat power. The Tyrant Whale Fist, there's a problem with this technique. It actually has things like demonic thoughts and killing intent. It is a little dangerous. However, in Zhou Fu's mind, he recalled the punch he had used to kill the guard. The purest form of strength had brought about the most direct effect. This attack power, Sai. But fortunately, the scripture of the wise king seems to be able to suppress it. So the scripture of the wise king should be the main cultivation, followed by the secret of Iron Bone and the art of bronze armor, and then the Tyrant Whale Fist. For the time being, it's decided. Suddenly, Zhou Fu's eyes flashed as he stared at the panel. The scripture of the wise king can support other martial arts, if it is used to support the cultivation of the secret of Iron Bone. If this is feasible. Chapter 97. 10 days later, Zhou Fu stood in the courtyard in the posture of the dragon embracing pillar. In his body, a faint golden inner strength covered the bones of his body. These inner strengths, like flowing water, slowly washed and accompanied by subtle vibrations. This is the unique cultivation method of Iron Bone's secret scroll, vibrating the inner strength in the body and slowly strengthening the bones of the whole body according to a specific frequency. Originally, Zhou Fu tried to increase the flow speed of the inner strength and the frequency of the vibration. Not only did it have no effect, but he also suffered internal injuries. Even the state value that recovered to 85 dropped by 2 points. Since that day, Zhou Fu has been very honest and no longer randomly changed the cultivation method. Kaka, Zhou Fu's hands changed a few hand seals, and the inner strength attached to his bones returned to his meridians. Then his qi and blood emerged and quickly rushed to every part of his body. Only when a layer of fine sweat appeared on his skin did he slowly stop. It's been 10 days, my body's condition is now recovered, and the profound qi in the Yangming wheel is also sufficient. It's time to upgrade my martial arts. Then, Zhou Fu instructed Yuju and walked into the practice room. The furnishings of the room were very simple. There was a table against the wall with prepared water on it. In the middle of the room, there was a 2-meter square cushion for Zhou Fu to meditate and practice. In the back wall of the practice room, there was a door that led to the bathroom, which was specially arranged by Zhou Fu. After changing into clean and loose clothes and spreading his hair, Zhou Fu sat down cross-legged on the cushion in the middle of the room and formed the Wisdom King Fearless seal with his hands. His heart also calmed down. After calling out the auxiliary panel and selecting Iron Bone's secret scroll, he said silently, "Upgrade. Ding, Iron Bone's secret scroll has been successfully upgraded. Iron Bone secret scroll. 4th level, Bone strengthening level 4, blood strengthening level 1. Looking at the newly generated attributes, Zhou Fu was overjoyed. There was actually one more. After thinking about it, the appearance of this attribute was very reasonable. After all, the bones of the human body had the function of producing blood. Just as Zhou Fu was letting his imagination run wild, the blood and qi in his body suddenly trembled, rushing out from all parts of his body, surging towards the nearby bones and wrapping around them. Layer after layer, it was like the clouds in the mountains. However, this was a cloud formed by blood and was as red as blood. When all of his bones were covered in red mist, numerous needles of qi and blood appeared in the red mist and pierced into his bones. Bang, bang, bang. Zhou Fu's eyes suddenly widened. The veins on his forehead and temples bulged, and one could clearly see the bulging veins pulsating. The intense pain made him unable to make sound. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead, neck, and back. Then his pores suddenly tightened, and not a single drop of sweat came out. At the same time, the qi and blood in his body generated a large amount of heat. The heat tried to rush out of the body, but it was blocked by the pores. As the heat accumulated, it kept squeezing like countless steel needles, constantly attacking his pores. It was extremely uncomfortable. The red mist of qi and blood continued to attack his bones, trying to get in. After trying for a long time, it only went in a little. At this time, a large amount of qi and blood surged out of the Yangming wheel and joined the red mist. This time, the pain increased again. Just as Zhou Fu was tormented by the intense pain in his body and was a little absent-minded, the inner strength in his meridians also surged out. Just like usual, when he used the Wisdom King scripture to support the Iron Bone secret scroll cultivation, the inner strength covered up. However, this time, the inner strength did not cover the bones, but the blood mist condensed from qi and blood. The blood mist needles were instantly strengthened. In Zhou Fu's ears, there seemed to be a continuous sound that sounded like rain hitting a banana leaf. The qi and blood needles that were supported by the Wisdom King scripture were extremely sharp and instantly pierced into the bones. Thus, the pale golden inner strength mixed with the blood mist entered the bones. Sink. Amidst the intense pain, Zhou Fu felt his body sink suddenly. He could clearly feel that the density of his bones had increased, and their strength had also increased by a level. After more than 10 minutes, the inner strength returned to his meridians, and the qi and blood flowed freely in his body. Moreover, in Zhou Fu's perception, there was a pony with red light flowing around its body, running happily in the qi and blood mist. After the upgrade, Zhou Fu looked at the attribute panel. The original 100 points of the status value were now left with 70 points. In other words, this upgrade consumed a total of 30 points of his status value, and a part of the qi and blood in the Yangming wheel. Everything was worth it. Zhou Fu stood up and raised his hand. The bones in my arm are 30% heavier than before. It's so uncomfortable. The quality of my body can't keep up. He looked at the bronze armor art and then looked at his status. He gritted his teeth. I'll take a gamble. At most, I'll recuperate for a few days. Recuperate? Zhou Fu's gaze swept down the page. Eternal Spring Energy, Level 3, Basic Recovery Level 3. This was the skill that Zhou Fu had forgotten for a long time, and now it was reflected in his eyes. Isn't this a healing skill? F***, I'm so stupid. How could I forget about this? Although upgrading martial arts could bring a lot of attribute bonuses, this kind of bonus was too violent. It would put a burden on his body, and it might even cause damage. This was also the reason why his status value dropped. Zhou Fu's eyes flashed, and he instantly made up his mind to upgrade the Eternal Spring energy first. Upgrade. Upgrade again. The system notification sounded continuously, and his status value and the Qi essence in the Yang Ming will quickly disappeared. After upgrading to the 5th level, the notification changed. Ding! Eternal Spring Energy has broken through. Eternal Spring Energy, Level 6, Healing Level 1, Recovery Level 1, Status Value. 59%. It dropped below 60%. Zhou Fu fell to the ground weakly, and his body was already soaked in sweat. If I win, I'll go to the clubhouse. Yes, yes. This round is considered a 5-card stud. At this moment, on the stats page, his status value jumped to 60%. It increased a little. He won the bet. Young master, what happened to you? Quickly sit down. I'll get you a doctor. In the courtyard, Zhou Fu walked to the wide recliner with Yuzhu's help and carefully lay down. Then, Yuzhu hurriedly ran out. This time, I wonder what kind of trouble will happen. Looking at the clear sky above, Zhou Fu muttered to himself. Soon, a large group of people ran in under Yuzhu's lead. Sir, young master. Jin Peng and Ma Shuping looked at Zhou Fu's pale face and shouted in shock. Yuzhu's eyes were filled with tears, and she pulled a man in a black robe who looked to be in his 40s. She choked and said, Doctor, quickly take a look at my young master. The doctor quickly went forward. Sir, I'm sorry for the offense. He reached out and placed his hand on Zhou Fu's wrist. He closed his eyes, focused, and carefully felt the pulse under his hand. After a while, the doctor opened his eyes, and Yuzhu hurriedly asked, Doctor, how is my young master? The doctor frowned and said hesitantly, From this sir's pulse, his qi and blood are vigorous, and his pulse is strong. However, the yang qi in his body has broken the balance of yin and yang, resulting in a deficiency of yin and hyperactivity of yang. However, sir's symptoms are more serious, and it should be because he is in a hurry to cultivate. Doctor, quickly tell me, how should I treat it? I'll give sir a prescription, decoct it twice a day, morning and night. For the next month, recuperate in peace, and remember not to use martial arts. Then, I'll give you a prescription for brewing tea. Drink it before and after cultivation, and the symptoms will not appear. Chapter 98. After the doctor left, groups of people came and went. They put down some things, greeted him, and left. At this time, Zhou Fu realized that there were so many giant whale members in the Elysium. He thought that it would be good if there were more than 20 people. Who knew that there would be more than 50 people today? It had been an hour since Zhou Fu walked out of the training room. He looked at his attribute panel. The value of 60 had returned to 65, which was equivalent to 5 to 6 points per hour. A hint of a smile appeared in his eyes, but it soon disappeared. The news of my injury has been sent back to the headquarters, right? I wonder what you will do. Giant whale headquarters. What? Zhou Fu is injured. Xing Gang stared at Kong Yutsung and asked. That's right. Kong Yaozong smiled bitterly. That kid is just a hothead. According to the doctor, he was too anxious to cultivate. He needs to rest for a month. Bastard, Xing Gang paced back and forth angrily. A month. A month. Mother asterisk her. I guess that bastard Sherlong is laughing like crazy. Don't worry, leader, Kong Yutsung said. It seems that Zhou Fu relied on his own talent to reach this level. He doesn't know anything about martial arts. As he explained, Xing Gang's expression became strange. According to what Kong Yutsung said, Zhou Fu's talent was too monstrous. Looking at Xing Gang's expression, Kong Yutsung smiled and continued. Leader, actually, we're the ones who benefit the most from Zhou Fu's situation. Xing Gang raised his eyebrows and looked at Kong Yutsung strangely. He asked, what do you mean? Since Zhou Fu doesn't have any martial arts knowledge, we can take advantage of this and lock him down in the martial cultivation tower. What's the reason? That's easy. Just tell him that you want him to cultivate Tyrant Whale Fist in peace. Tell him that this is for his own good. Let him focus on one martial art. Xingang nodded as he listened. Not only that, you have to give him a prescription to help him recuperate. This time, Xingang was unhappy. One had to know that the prescription for recuperating the body was very expensive. What he took out was not something that an ordinary doctor could write. That's too much. Not to mention him. Even Shilong wouldn't be able to get this recipe. Kong Yaozong smiled and explained, "Of course, I won't let you give away the original copy. Even if you give it to him, can Zhou Fu afford to eat the things inside?" Hearing that he didn't need to give out the original copy, Xingang nodded. "You sure are thoughtful. Hurry up and say it." As of now, Zhou Fu's monthly income is about 12,000 taels. We have to let him know that cultivation costs money. Only by spending money can he improve faster and safer. We have to make him unable to make ends meet. Kong Yutsung smiled sinisterly. If his cultivation is delayed because of lack of money, will he be willing? Moreover, under the influence of Tyrant Whale Fist, what will he do? At this moment, the image of a crazy killing figure appeared in front of his eyes. As long as he makes a move, there will be a conflict. When the time comes, we just have to give him a light push, or maybe we don't even need to push him. He will fight with Shilong. Even if they don't fight, there will be a progress report in a year and a half. If I remember correctly, Shilong's nephew is coming back, right? Xingang was overjoyed when he heard this. This feeling of strategizing was simply too satisfying. He only had to open his mouth, and a blood transformation realm expert and a young genius were about to fight on the path he had chosen. Good, good, good. Xingang said good 3 times in a row and asked, "What about the ending? If there isn't a good ending, it won't be worthy of this arrangement." Kong Yutsung said, "No matter who wins or loses, Zhou Fu will definitely be heavily injured. As the leader, give him a blood mark pill to heal his injuries." Blood mark pill. Xingang immediately interrupted Kong Yutsung. "Why did this thing come out? That thing will explode if it's given to people below level 6 of the mortal evolution realm." The sound in the room suddenly disappeared, and a strange atmosphere gathered. Xingang took a deep breath and grinned. "As the leader, my general is injured. Of course, I have to give him a healing pill. However, there was a mistake when taking the pill. The person who chose the pill gave him the blood mark pill, causing my capable general to lose his life. TSK, TSK. Kong Yutsung continued. After investigation, the pill was chosen by Shilong. Ah! In the middle of the night, Zhou Fu walked into the training room again under Yuju's worried gaze. About half an hour later, Zhou Fu walked out. His face was calm, but his movements were slightly slow. He seemed to be careful and didn't dare to use force. Even Yuju, who wanted to help, was rejected by Zhou Fu. Sitting at the dining table, Zhou Fu reached out his hand. His skin was a bit yellow. At first glance, it looked like he was seriously ill. If one looked closely, it was the color of copper. The meat that he usually ate in one bite was cut into small pieces before putting it into his mouth. All these changes were seen by the maidservants who were serving at the side. After an hour of dinner, Zhou Fu took the bowl of medicine from Yuju and drank it. As the medicine entered his stomach, a warm and cool feeling immediately spread throughout his body. Zhou Fu's eyes lit up. "This medicine is different from the one I had in the afternoon?" Yuju nodded. "When young master was practicing, shopkeeper Jean sent a prescription and said it was from sect leader, so I changed it for you. I saw that young master's condition wasn't good just now, so I forgot to tell you about it. Please punish me." "It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter." Zhou Fu waved his hand with a surprised look on his face. "This prescription is very good. It's not something that other doctors can compare to." "Really?" Yuju was very happy to hear that. That's good, that's good. Sect leader also sent 2 prescriptions, and one of them is for you to make tea. It's just that." Seeing Yuju's hesitant expression, Zhou Fu asked, "What is it?" "It's just too expensive." This time, Zhou Fu was curious. As his personal maid, she had seen a lot of money. It wasn't easy for her to say that it was expensive. How expensive? The healing medicine costs 600 taels, so it's 1,200 taels per day. This is what shopkeeper Jean took from the sect's pharmacy. If you buy it outside, it would cost more than 1,000 taels. The medicine packet for making tea is cheaper, only 100 taels per day. Zhou Fu nodded. Based on his body's reaction, this price was acceptable. Then he asked curiously, "How much do I need to eat every day?" Yuju's expression instantly became strange. She hesitantly said, "Young master eats 4 meals a day. For each meal, 50 pounds of cooked meat, 10 pounds of vegetables, and 1 pound of polished rice." Shopkeeper Jean calculated that it's 600 taels per day. "What about you?" Yuju opened her mouth and said in a low voice. Shopkeeper Jean said we don't need it. "It's just a bonus, a bonus," Zhou Fu said expressionlessly. "I'm going back to sleep." After saying that, he got up and went back to his room. Lying on the bed, he opened the page. Bronze Armor Art. Level 5. Physical Strengthening Level 1. Intermediate Damage Reduction Level 5. Intermediate Strength Strengthening Level 5. Hardness Level 1. The original elementary physical strengthening level had been removed, and now there was an additional hardness property. "I'm already injured. What will you do?" Chapter 99. The next day, in the cultivation room, Zhou Fu, who had just finished his inner strength cultivation, shook his head and sighed. Why isn't there a technique that can speed up the cultivation of inner strength? Through assistance, he could increase the level of a technique and comprehend its essence. Moreover, for passive techniques like Bronze Armor Technique, it could directly reflect the effects of the technique and was especially useful. However, when it came to mental cultivation methods, it would lose its powerful effect. For these types of techniques, after leveling up, inner strength would increase, but the amount would be less and the comprehension would be more. If he used assistance to increase the level of a technique to increase his inner strength, the effect would be very poor. Even if it can't directly increase inner strength, it would be good to have a special effect that speeds up cultivation. Ideas were always beautiful, but reality was still cold and harsh. Walking out of the room, the sun shone down. Zhou Fu closed his eyes and took a deep breath. His entire body relaxed. "Young master, didn't the doctor say to let you recuperate? Why did you go to cultivate again?" Yuju walked over with a face full of worry. "It's fine." Zhou Fu opened his eyes. "That doctor isn't a martial artist. He doesn't know shit." He reached out to take the brewed medicinal tea, tilted his head, and poured the medicine bag into his mouth along with the soup. Ever since he leveled up the essence wheel, Zhou Fu became more arrogant when it came to food. "Young master, that's a medicine bag." As the sun rotated, the cooling medicinal properties quickly evaporated. "It's fine, you'll get used to it." Just as he put down the teacup, Jean Peng rushed in. When he saw Zhou Fu's condition, his face lit up. "Sir, congratulations." Zhou Fu smiled. "It's all because of the sect leader's good medicine." "All right, why are you in such a hurry?" Jean Peng's face instantly fell. He was in a difficult position. He said, "Sir, it's like this. It's time to pay the rent for the Elysium." "What?" Zhou Fu's eyes widened in disbelief. "Rent? The Elysium still needs to pay rent?" In a society where brute force reigned supreme, and where people would fight if they were unhappy, a gang like the Giant Whale actually had to pay rent. In response to Zhou Fu's question, Jean Peng explained with a wry smile, "Yes, sir. This land doesn't belong to us. It was rented by one of the elders of the sect. Later on, this Elysium was built." Zhou Fu rubbed his head and felt a headache coming on. Could it be that the Giant Whale back then was a 5-good organization? Don't King talk nonsense. There must be something wrong here. Before I came, did the Elysium pay the rent? This. Jean Peng hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. No. A cold light flashed in Zhou Fu's eyes as he asked, "My predecessor's surname is Liu, right?" "Yes, everyone calls him Boss Liu." "In other words, this Boss Liu didn't pay rent. Now that I'm here, he has to pay rent? This Boss Liu, is he one of Sherlong's men?" Jean Peng couldn't help but tremble. He hurriedly lowered his head. Sir, I don't know. Zhou Fu smiled and didn't make things difficult for him. "Does the headquarters know about the matter of collecting rent? I came to find you as soon as I could." These words were very well spoken. Not only did he answer the question, but he also put the focus on Zhou Fu. He pointed out that Zhou Fu was his superior and that he wouldn't report beyond his superior's authority. Report it and see what the headquarters says. Yes, I'll go do my work first. After speaking, Jin Peng ran away like a wisp of smoke. As the saying goes, when immortals fight, mortals suffer. He was young and had just become the head shopkeeper. He didn't want to die without knowing why. Collecting rent. Zhou Fu sneered again. He then began to practice the dragon-embracing stance. The pale golden inner strength began to cover his bones. For hours later, Jin Peng ran into Zhou Fu's courtyard with an anxious look on his face with an envelope in his hand. Sir, there are two things. First, there's a reply from headquarters. Here it is. Then he handed over the envelope. Also, the people who collected the rent have come. Oh. Zhou Fu tore open the envelope and glanced at it. A burst of anger surged in his heart. The reply in the letter was very rude. It basically said that the headquarters never knew about the rent and wouldn't pay it. They wanted Zhou Fu to solve it himself. If he couldn't solve it, they would replace him. He suppressed the anger in his heart and asked, "How many people? What do you mean?" That is, our Elysium uses the land of two families. One is surnamed Chun and the other is surnamed Huang. They are both famous merchants in the eastern part of the city. Now, in order to collect rent, the managers of the two families have come together. Seeing Jin Peng's flustered expression, Zhou Fu was somewhat speechless. He felt that the manager he appointed was too cowardly. He stretched out his hand and patted Goldenrock's shoulder. Don't worry, business can be discussed. Now that the headquarter has handed over all of this to me, I will naturally be responsible to the end. Go, find a quiet room. I will treat the two managers to a meal. Meal? Jin Peng looked at Zhou Fu in confusion. Although he was very puzzled, he still turned around and hurriedly went to carry out the orders. Looking at the courtyard door, Zhou Fu snorted. The qi and blood in his body rushed toward his chest and rushed toward the blood horse that he had condensed before. According to the tyrannical whale Fist, after condensing a blood horse, one had to continuously use qi and blood to nurture it. Then, one could condense another blood horse. This blood horse could increase the cultivator's strength. Every additional horse would increase the cultivator's strength by 500 kilograms. At most, one could condense 10 horses. Of course, this was only recorded in the book. It was also recorded that after condensing 10 horses, there would be an even greater change. However, no one had succeeded in cultivating it, so it was only a guess. Zhou Fu wasn't sure if the records in the book were correct, but this blood horse could really increase his strength. Yuzhu, prepare a set of training clothes and a robe for me. Yes. In the guest room, Zhou Fu pushed the door open and entered. Whoosh! More than 10 pairs of eyes instantly looked over. There were more than 10 people in the room. There were 3 sitting at the round table, and one of them was Jin Peng. Seeing Zhou Fu enter, Jin Peng hurriedly stood up and introduced him to the 2 seated men. Gentlemen, this is the giant whale's external affairs representative, Mr. Zhou. He is also the manager of the Elysium. Zhou Fu walked directly to the main seat and sat down, looking at the 2 men. At this time, Jin Peng began to introduce them to Zhou Fu. One of them was in his 40s or 50s. His coat was white with some golden patterns on it. He looked very rich. This was the manager of the Huang family, Huang Mingyuan. The other man looked a little older than Huang Mingyuan. He looked cold and wore a black coat with golden edges. His name was Chun Gu Si, the manager of the Chun family. The people of the Huang and Chun families were also sizing up Zhou Fu. However, when they saw Zhou Fu's overly young appearance, they sneered in their hearts. You are external emissary Zhou, right? You are so young. You can be considered young and promising. Huang Mingyuan had a fake smile on his face. When these words came out of his mouth, it was covered with a layer of sarcasm. Zhou Fu nodded and didn't get angry. He just took off his coat and revealed the clothes inside. He said, "Everyone is busy. Let's talk about the rent." Okay. Huang and Chen looked at each other and nodded. Huang Mingyuan said, "Zhou Fuwei is really straightforward. Then let's talk about it. This Elysium uses the land of our Huang and Chun families. It has been used for more than 10 years. Now it's time to calculate the rent, right? As he spoke, he took out a piece of paper from his bosom. There were many seals on it. This is the land deed of the Huang family. Zhou, please take a look. Chingusi also took out a deed and placed it side by side. This belongs to the Chun family. That's not a problem. Zhou didn't look at the deed. Instead, he looked into Huang Mingyuan's eyes and asked, since it has been used for 10 years, why didn't you collect rent? Chapter 100. Could it be that the two of you are bullying me because I'm young? Zhou said in a deep voice. A powerful aura arose from Zhou body, and the atmosphere in the room suddenly became heavy. Impudent! How dare you? Two reprimanding voices came from behind Huang and Chun. Behind them stood two guards. Not only that, there were two guards on each side of the room's door. These 8 guards protected Huang and Chun tightly. Huang Mingyuan smiled. The guards behind him burst forth with energy, counteracting Zhou aura. To him, it was just like being blown by the wind. We've made a fool of ourselves in front of Zhou. We're just ordinary merchants, so we hired some guards to protect us. Haha, my guards are at least at the 2nd level of the bone tempering stage. He looked at Zhou with a smile that wasn't a smile, and his eyes were full of pride. Brother Huang is right. My Chun family is the same. 8 bone tempering guards. Zhou's eyes flashed as he looked at Huang Mingyuan. Huang Mingyuan smiled and said, Zhou, in the past, your previous external envoy Liu was an unreasonable person. He relied on his high cultivation and the giant whale behind him to bully us at will. Now that the Elysium has changed its management, it shouldn't be the same as before, bullying ordinary people like us at will, right? Chingusi nodded and said, Zhou is young and promising. To be able to reach such a position at such an age, you must be a righteous person. Huang Mingyuan continued, then, Zhou, let's settle the matter of the rent first. Crash! A golden object that looked like an abacus slipped out of his sleeve. Patter, patter. Huang Mingyuan's fingers flew, and the golden beads constantly collided with each other. Zhou looked at him with interest. To be exact, he was looking at the golden abacus in his hand. Recently, Zhou's high daily expenses had been pressuring him. Especially in the past few days, he had been thinking about where to get money. Huang Mingyuan's actions suddenly gave him a new idea. The money was coming. Ha! With a crisp sound, everyone looked at Huang Mingyuan. Zhou, let's say that you're using it for 12 years. Of course, it's far longer than that. But we're all straightforward people. I'm sure Brother Chen doesn't have any objections, right? Chingusi nodded. I'll do as Brother Huang says. Brother Chun, you're too polite. I'll treat you to a meal later. Huang Mingyuan thanked him. Then he looked at Zhou and said, Zhou, let's say that it's 12,000 taels a month. That's 728,000 taels for 12 years. Let's take a step back and round it off. It'll be 720,000 taels. What does Zhou think? 7 million taels? Zhou grinned. This amount was enough for him to cultivate to the peak of bone forging. But 1 million taels isn't much. Hearing Zhou say this, Huang and Chen looked at each other. Then they turned to look at Zhou. Huang Mingyuan cupped his hands and said, Zhou is young and promising. Generous. Chingusi also cupped his hands and said, generous. Huang Mingyuan then asked, since this money doesn't enter Zhou's eyes, I wonder, how will you give it to us? Zhou smiled and said, no hurry, no hurry. We're all businessmen. I just happen to have a business here. I wonder if the two of you are willing to take part in it. Business? Huang Mingyuan and Chingusi both shook their heads and refused. Zhou, we're all small businesses. We can't take part in a big business like yours. Let's forget about it. Don't, Zhou stopped them. If the Huang Jia and Chun family are small businesses, then who can say that this is a big business? Huang Mingyuan cupped his hands and said, thank you for Zhou's kindness, but we just want to get back the rent. As for the rest, we don't want to think about it. Finished speaking, he looked sincerely at Zhou. Of course, Zhou wouldn't let the two off. He continued to talk about random things, but he didn't mention the matter of rent. Gradually, Huang and Chun became impatient. Huang Mingyuan said lowly. Zhou Fei, we really don't want to do any business. You don't need to say anything. However, you're rambling here and there. It can't be that you don't want to pay, right? As soon as his voice fell, the 8-bone forging imperial bodyguards in the room all stared at Zhou Fu. Zhou Fu shook his head. The money will be paid. As for business, I still want the two of you to consider it. Consider it? Huang Mingyuan was so angry that he laughed. Zhou Fei said a lot of things, but he didn't talk about any business. Do you think we're fools? Moreover, even if you want to do business, I don't know how Zhou Fei wants to do business with us. And what capital do you have to do business with us? Zhou Fu stood up. Under the other's vigilant gaze, he said, Then I'll let you see my capital first. Whoosh, a shadow flashed, and everyone instantly lost sight of Zhou Fu's figure. Not good. An imperial bodyguard standing behind Huang Mingyuan shouted. However, it was too late. Zhou Fu had already revealed himself. He was next to one of the imperial bodyguards behind Huang Mingyuan. He stretched out his large hand and fiercely clasped it into the flesh of the other's arm. His blood and chi surged, and a powerful force erupted. Bang! With a muffled sound, the bone in Zhou Fu's hand suddenly shattered. Countless tiny bone fragments pierced into the surrounding flesh. For a moment, a large amount of blood flowed out from between Zhou Fu's fingers and dripped onto the ground. This is my capital, Zhou Fu shouted. He clenched his right hand into a fist and suddenly punched out. With a bang, the fist penetrated the person's chest and came out from behind. At this moment, a strong wind blew. Zhou Fu pulled back his arm and ducked to avoid a palm from behind. He twisted his waist, turned around, and punched. The swift and violent fist passed through the defense and crashed into the other's ribs. The fist force exploded. Boom! The person flew out as if he was hit by a car. Large amounts of blood gushed out from his mouth and nose. He looked like he was about to die. After killing 2 people, Zhou Fu's figure flashed and appeared between the other 2. He punched out with both fists. The violent fist force of the tyrannical whale fist was coupled with the enhancement of the fist art, Mountain Splitter. Zhou Fu directly smashed the arms of the 2 people who were blocking him. His fist continued to smash down, and the 2 people's chests caved in, instantly killing them. The room was filled with the smell of blood, but Zhou Fu was enjoying it. This was the after effect of the tyrannical whale fist. Bone forging? Hee, just a bunch of trash. You want to threaten me? Bang! Zhou Fu's figure soared into the air and rushed towards the 4 imperial bodyguards at the door. He was like an eagle catching a chicken. If you don't die after taking one of my punches, I'll let you leave. Overturn the sea. Boom! As his chi and blood rose, an illusion seemed to appear in the void beside Zhou Fu. It was an incomparably huge whale. It raised its huge tail and slammed it down. The incomparably terrifying power pressed down, causing the space to begin to tremble. Kill! Bang, bang, bang. The 3 figures were all smashed into the ground by Zhou Fu. Large amounts of blood splattered everywhere. This was not the end of it. Blood was still flowing out from these piles of flesh. Ah, I'll kill you. Whoosh! A cold light landed on Zhou Fu's chest. Ding! Bang! Zhou Fu looked at the imperial bodyguard who was holding a broken sword and punched out decisively. With a bang, the head of the last imperial bodyguard was shattered. Zhou Fu looked at Huang Mingyuan and Chen Gusi, who were dumbfounded. He said, How is it? Is it enough for rent? Is it enough? Chapter 101. Everyone in the room was dumbfounded. Not only Huang and Chen, but even Jin Peng and the giant whale gang members behind him looked at Zhou Fu in horror. From Zhou Fu's sudden attack to the death of all 8 bone forging guards, it took less than 10 seconds. Zhou Fu stood in a pool of blood, his entire body seething with murderous intent. He resisted the urge to beat Huang and Chen to death and secretly operated the Wisdom King scripture. The Buddha's shadow and his sea of consciousness formed the Wisdom King fearless seal, and a cool feeling spread from between his eyebrows. Huang Mingyuan's entire body trembled, perhaps because he was frightened by Zhou Fu. You actually dare? This questioning tone made Zhou Fu frown. The other party didn't even have the awareness of a weakling. It seemed that he needed to tell the other party that there was a huge difference between the strong and the weak. Walking to the side of the table, Zhou Fu raised his right hand and slapped Huang Mingyuan's right hand. This slap seemed slow, but in reality, it contained power. Bang! The table shook violently. Ah! A mournful scream came from Huang Mingyuan's mouth, and everyone in the room looked over in horror. On the table, Huang Mingyuan's right hand was smashed into the table by Zhou Fu. Moreover, there were no cracks in the area where the palm was embedded. Zhou Fu nodded in satisfaction. It wasn't difficult to smash Huang Mingyuan's palm, and it wasn't difficult to smash the table. The difficult part was to smash Huang Mingyuan's palm into the table without damaging the other parts of the table. The control of power could be said to have reached a higher level. Walking to the main seat, Zhou Fu sat down, looking refreshed. He looked at Chun Gusi, who was constantly wiping his sweat, and asked, "Shopkeeper Chun, right? Tell me, do I have the strength to cooperate with you?" Being called out, Chun Gusi's entire body shuddered, and a layer of goosebumps instantly appeared on his back. He quickly nodded. Yes, yes. According to my lord's strength, it's us who are climbing up the social ladder. Zhou Fu smiled faintly and ordered Jin Peng, "Go and write a certificate of transfer." Jin Peng looked at Zhou Fu with eyes full of fear. He never thought that his new boss would have such a strong, killing intent. Even in the gangs, it would be difficult to find someone with a greater desire to kill than Zhou Fu. After hearing the order, he hurriedly got up, turned around, and ran out. A few minutes later, Jin Peng returned, trembling with fear. He was holding a wooden tray with paper and a pen on it. He bent over the table and began to write rapidly. Suddenly, he looked up at Zhou Fu and asked, "Sir, how much do you intend to pay for these 2 pieces of land?" "1 tael of silver." "1 tael?" Zhou Fu raised his eyebrows and looked at Jin Peng. He scolded, "Why are you talking so much nonsense? Hurry up and write." "Please forgive me, sir. Please forgive me." With just this sentence, Jin Peng's forehead was already sweating slightly. Swish, swish, swish. "Sir, it's done." Zhou Fu took the completed contract and looked at it. Then, he placed it on the table and tapped the paper twice with his finger. He said calmly to Huang and Chun, "Sign it." Huang and Chin's expressions were very ugly, especially Huang Mingyuan's. At this time, his hand was still embedded in the table and had not been pulled out. "Zhou, Mr. Zhou, it's not that we don't want to sign it. Even if we sign it, it's useless." "Useless?" Zhou Fu looked at Chingu Si and asked. "Yes, for such a big matter, it needs the family seal." After Chingu Si finished speaking, he turned to look at Huang Mingyuan. Yes, yes, yes. Brother Chun is right. It needs the family seal. Otherwise, it's useless." Their words made Zhou Fu laugh. He was not stupid. These two clearly had bad intentions. "Let's not talk about whether it's useful or not. The 2 of you have to sign it." As soon as he said this, Huang and Chin's faces turned as white as lead. The room was silent for a while. Then, Huang Mingyuan spoke first. "Mr. Zhou, if you really do this, then you're going too far. Although our Huang and Chun clans are just merchant clans, we are not people who can be easily bullied." He stared at Zhou Fu and said in a low voice, "Mr. Zhou, even if your martial arts are excellent, so what? This time you killed 8 guards. Our families still have 18, 28, or even more. When the time comes, can you still kill them all?" For a moment, everyone's eyes were on Zhou Fu. Huang Mingyuan said again, "Mr. Zhou, how about this? This time, our families were wrong. We don't want to rent. We'll sign it as proof. Just treat it as our families cooperating with the giant whale. When we go back later, we'll send gifts. Let's put this matter behind us. What do you think?" Following Huang Mingyuan's words, Jin Peng also turned to look at Zhou Fu. He felt that the other party was right. Now that the Huang and Chun families had waived the rent and sent gifts as compensation, the matter was very satisfactory. It was good to end it here. Under everyone's gazes, Zhou Fu suddenly said, "Does the Huang and Chun families have experts at the 3rd blood transformation realm?" 3rd blood transformation realm? Huang Mingyuan and Chen Gusi instantly shut their mouths. If they spoke the truth, it would be a complete betrayal of their families. Moreover, even if they spoke the truth, would the other party believe them? Zhou Fu looked at the Huang and Chun families and asked again, "Are you really not going to sign it?" The two were silent. Zhou Fu stood up and said, "You were the ones who threatened me first. Now that I've killed your guards, you're the ones who want to negotiate." At this point, Zhou Fu sneered, "Apologize? Let's end it here." As he spoke, he walked to Huang Mingyuan's side. Huff, huff, as Zhou Fu walked to his side, Huang Mingyuan's heart began to beat wildly. His whole body began to tremble, and a cold and numb feeling filled his upper body. He lowered his head and gasped for air. Zhou Fu's right hand covered Huang Mingyuan's hand that was embedded in the table. With a forceful grab, a large piece of the wooden table was pulled up. In the midst of Huang Mingyuan's screams, Zhou Fu squeezed the other party's hand until it exploded. "Do you think I'm made of mud? Do you think I'm made of mud?" "Ha!" Zhou Fu raised his hand and slapped Huang Mingyuan, sending him flying and crashing into a chair with a bang. With a crashing sound, the wooden chair shattered into a pile. Huang Mingyuan also fell to the floor. "I'm the giant whale's envoy, the person in charge of this Elysium." Zhou Fu walked to Chingusi's side and picked him up from the chair. He stared at the other party's constricted pupils because of fear. "I'm not a child in school who could be bullied by others." Bang! All of a sudden, Chingusi was pushed back again. The chair he was sitting on cracked and fell to the ground. The pain on his butt stimulated Chingusi. He quickly got up, grabbed the pen on the table, and quickly signed his name on the contract. He even took out his seal and stamped it. These movements were so smooth that Huang Mingyuan, who was lying on the ground and howling not far away, was dumbfounded. "Huh!" Zhou Fu sneered and glanced at Jinpeng. This gave the Golden Rock a scare. He hurriedly stepped forward and put away the signed contract. Zhou Fu picked up Huang Mingyuan and opened the door. At this time, there were already Elysium's guards standing outside. He casually pointed, "You guys prepare the carriage and take this trash to Huang Jia to collect the debt." Chapter 102. The sun was setting in the west, east of Ning'an City. A carriage arrived in front of Huang Jia's gate. Behind the carriage were more than 10 men on horseback. These men were all plump and fit, with sabers at their waists. They exuded a fierce aura. "Sir, Huang Jia is here." A guard came to the side of the carriage and spoke carefully. After getting off the carriage, Zhou Fu looked at the tightly shut gate, then turned to look at the half-open side door and the servants of Huang Jia who were pointing at him. He sneered in his heart, "Someone is obviously playing dirty tricks behind my back, but they want me to deal with it myself while you guys hide behind and watch the show. Fine, I'll let you guys have a good time today." The giant whale's reply enraged Zhou Fu. This had nothing to do with him in the first place, yet they insisted on letting him clean up this mess. Wasn't this bullying? With a flick of his hand, he threw Huang Mingyuan, who looked like a lump of mud, to the accompanying guards and ordered, "Just watch." "Yes, sir." Zhou Fu took off his outer clothes, revealing his strong muscles. His veins were like rapidly growing tree roots, emerging from his upper arms and climbing up his forearms. He stepped onto the stone steps. "Didn't you guys want me to practice the tyrannical whale fist? Today, I'll let you see if my tyrannical whale fist is to your liking." He crushed the wax coating on a blood and chi pill and swallowed it. Instantly, streams of blazing medicinal power spread out rapidly under the influence of the Yangming wheel. As his blood and chi rose, Zhou Fu's body suddenly grew taller, and his well-defined muscles began to swell. After 5 steps, a 2-meter-tall giant with arms thicker than a normal person's thigh appeared. In front of the gate, Zhou Fu felt relaxed and carefree. He laughed loudly and punched out. Boom! A large hole suddenly appeared in the red lacquered gate. Broken pieces of wood fell into the courtyard like rain. Clang! 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 An ear-piercing alarm sounded, and the shrill screams of the servants resounded through the sky above Huang Jia. As a big merchant, Huang Jia reacted quickly. The first echelon was made up of ordinary servants. Each of them held a long stick in their hands and stood in the middle of the courtyard. "Who are you? How dare you behave atrociously in my Huangjia? Do you want to die? An old man who looked like a housekeeper spoke with a firm voice, even though his face was filled with fear. To think that he would dare to berate Zhou Fu at this moment. Seemed like the Huang family had pretty decent foundations after all. Zhou Fu calmly stood there. He looked at the other party and said, "Ordinary people can disperse. It doesn't matter how many of you below bone forging come. You don't even have the qualifications to scratch this grandfather's itch." These overbearing and unreasonable words caused the servants to panic. They knew that bone forging was one of the house's top masters. Normally, it was not easy to even see one of them. When the old man saw that the servants were panicking, he scolded, "How can you believe the words of a thief? Be quiet. Today, we will fight the enemy together." This old man seemed to have a lot of prestige. After he scolded a few times, the servants gradually quieted down. Zhou Fu was speechless. Although they were courageous, they were on the enemy's side. Just looking at them made him annoyed. He was not willing to wantonly kill these ordinary people. Although there were 20 or 30 people on the other side, he could rush in for at most 10 seconds and beat them into a pile of flesh and blood. "Thief, don't look down on us." The old man began to scold Zhou Fu. His voice was full of energy. Zhou Fu gradually became angry. He had been waiting for almost 5 minutes, but Huang Jia's guards still hadn't come out. He turned his head and looked at the corridor next to the door. There were some pillars about 20 centimeters in diameter. He walked over and broke the pillar with a punch. Then, he grabbed one end and gently pulled it out. A 2-meter-long stick appeared in his hand. "Since you don't want to come out, I'll add some fuel to the fire." Zhou Fu's eyes flashed fiercely. He exerted force with his fingers and dug them into the pillar. Then he twisted his waist and swung his arm. Like throwing a javelin, he threw half of the pillar into the depths of the house. When the pillar was thrown out, a low whining sound shook the scalps of the servants. Just now, when Zhou Fu tore down the pillar, they were already on the verge of collapse. Now that he did this, they instantly scattered like birds and beasts. "Mother! Monster! Run! I don't want to die! I don't want to die!" The old man's legs went soft, and he sat on the ground. Then he used his hands and feet to crawl to the side. Amidst the screams of collapse, the pillar crashed into the wall with a loud bang and created a big hole. It continued to fly inside. Looking at the clean space, Zhou Fu chuckled. He tapped the tip of his foot and used Flying Dragon's 5 zigzags to rush into the inner house. It was unknown if Zhou Fu's performance was too excessive. Along the way, he didn't even see a shadow of a person. Zhou Fu jumped onto the roof and glanced around. He grinned and said, "So you're all gathered together. That's great." Bang! With a loud bang, the roof collapsed in an instant. At the same time, Zhou Fu rushed toward the place where Huang Jia was gathered. He swept past the roofs and landed on the square. "Good thief, Dai." As soon as Zhou Fu landed, several cold lights rushed toward him. "You don't even know who I am, and you dare to rush up?" Although these people who rushed up didn't even have the ability to leave a white mark on his skin, Zhou Fu still didn't want them to cut him. He waved his hand. It was as if it was cast from iron. Ping, 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 ping. Amidst the chaotic sounds, the long swords that were slashing toward him all broke. None of them could cut him. A bunch of trash. Those below the bone forging stage, get lost. Zhou Fu roared. His voice was like a thunderclap, causing everyone's faces to turn pale. However, this didn't mean that he would let these people go. His legs flew. Relying on his basic leg techniques, he kicked all the people who surrounded him away. After flying for a distance, those figures fell heavily on the ground. They were all dead. These people were all in the energy refining stage. Facing Zhou Fu's terrifying strength, they were far from being able to resist. The corpses that fell on the ground made the guards who wanted to go forward stop in their tracks. "Thief, the Huang residence is not a place for you to behave atrociously." A loud shout came from the crowd. Following that, a figure soared into the sky. With a turn in the air, he rushed toward Zhou Fu. "Huh, finally, a decent one has come. However, one is too little. How many bone forging stage cultivators do you have? Come at me together." Zhou Fu laughed heartily and strode forward. Shameless boasting. Die. The person who came jumped down from the sky. He held the sword with both hands and chopped down with the force of a mountain. Zhou Fu shook his head. One is not enough. It's really not enough. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched at the cold light from his waist. Within his body, surging chi and blood surged. He followed the method of the tyrannical whale fist and struck out. Bang! The cold light exploded into specks of cold stars. The fist didn't slow down and smashed into a pair of fleshy palms. The fist and palm collided. The person's expression changed greatly. He watched as his arms broke. Before he could feel the pain, blood and bones were already squeezed out of his body. Immediately after, the fist landed on his chest. Boom! Amidst the explosion, a bloody mist soared into the sky. A tattered corpse fell in front of the crowd. The square was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Are all the bone forging stage cultivators in Huang Jia dead? Get out here. Chapter 103. All of you back off. A loud voice rang out. At the same time, 6 figures flew out of the crowd and landed in front of the corpse. Following the person's instructions, the crowd surrounding Zhou Fu in the square began to retreat in an orderly manner. One of them bent down and tapped on the corpse a few times, saying, "Everyone, there's something strange about this kid." Old Zhong is also an old man at the 2nd level of the bone forging stage. Now, his arms were broken by a huge force. It's unbelievable. The other 5 people's faces darkened. They looked at Zhou Fu with more fear in their eyes. What else can you tell? The person who checked the corpse stood up, took a deep breath, and slowly exhaled. He didn't use any force. What? How can that be? Just as they were surprised, a Huangjia bodyguard quickly walked to them, whispered a few words, and then quickly retreated. Among the 6 people, the leader was a middle-aged man. He was also the one with the highest cultivation in the group at the 3rd level of the bone forging stage. I'm Ding Chuan. The middle-aged man took a step forward. The other 5 people instantly moved and surrounded Zhou Fu. Cold rays of light appeared in their hands, but no one stepped forward. Today, I'll bring my brothers and ask for advice from the new foreign affairs emissary of the giant whale. Kill! A series of shouts rang through the sky. 6 figures rushed toward Zhou Fu with powerful momentum. I've been waiting for you. Zhou Fu laughed. At this time, his body was full of chi and blood, and he was in peak condition. Bang! He suddenly exerted force on his feet and turned into a shadow. He avoided the Ding Chuan in front and rushed to the side, choosing a thin man with a short stick. Take my punch. Kill! Seeing Zhou Fu rushing toward him, the man was stunned at first, then anger rose from his chest. The situation in front of him was obviously treating him as a pushover. Good boy. Go to hell. Brown clouds gushed out from the man's body and wrapped around the short stick as if they were alive. Although he was angry, he was not stupid, just how that bone forging master had died, as well as the miserable state he had been in after his death. All of this reminded him that this Zhou Fu in front of him was not to be trifled with. Wung as the clouds and mist swirled around it. The entire short stick seemed to weigh 1,000 kilograms. The short stick pressed down, and the air was squeezed apart. Boom! The fist and the stick collided. A circle of transparent ripples surged out. This strike is powerful. Zhou Fu's all-out punch only sent that person flying, but he was also stopped. At this moment, 5 attacks came from behind. Good timing. Zhou Fu's blood and chi were boiling. After he landed on the ground, he loosened his back and sat down. His 10 toes naturally dug into the ground. At this moment, the essence of rolling stone palm, thick earth force, was activated, allowing him to form a connection with the earth. At this time, the 5 attacks had already arrived in front of him. Zhou Fu brazenly punched out with both fists, and 5 distinct afterimages of his fists appear in front of him. Each of his fists seemed to have a fierce horse galloping. Boom, 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 boom. 5 roars of strength chi rang out. The solid ground instantly collapsed, and a large cloud of smoke and dust rose. Immediately after, 6 figures rushed out of the smoke and dust, pulling away from each other. This attack was just a test between everyone. Clang! The sound of fine iron falling to the ground rang out, and everyone turned to look. Among the 6 people, there was a person holding a long sword. At this moment, his face was filled with pain. His left hand was pressing on his right hand that was holding the sword. His eyes were full of hatred as he stared at Zhou Fu. He gritted his teeth and said, "There's a problem with that kid's strength. That son of a bitch. He didn't tell us." A vague name flashed past. The other 5 people were silent. They had also faced Zhou Fu's attack head-on. Although their injuries were not as serious as this person's, their arms were still sore. At this time, the person holding the short stick could not bear it anymore. He grimaced and said, "Everyone, this kid's fist strength, I estimate it to be at least 3,000 kilograms. What's the difference between this and a person in the blood transformation realm?" For a moment, everyone's faces were even more unsightly. They were all in the bone forging realm, and they were not the type who focused on strength. If they attacked with all their strength, it would be good if they could hit 1,000 kilograms. At this time, they also understood that the corpse on the ground had died with no regrets. "It's not that bad." As the leader of this group, Ding Chuan spoke up. At this moment, if he did not speak up, this group of people would probably think of running away. Everyone looked over. Ding Chuan said, "Although this kid's strength is amazing, his cultivation is very low. Through the exchange just now, I can feel that he has not reached the bone-forging realm yet." "What? How is that possible?" These people were all shocked by Zhou Fu's terrifying strength, so they ignored the matter of cultivation. Ding Chuan's face was gloomy. He nodded and said, "That's right. That kid does not have the special bone strength of someone in the bone-forging realm. I can feel that although his strength is strong, it is still at the training realm." As soon as these words came out, everyone was silent. A person who had not even reached the bone-forging realm had the strength of someone in the blood-changing realm. How could they encounter such a strange thing? Ding Chuan's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. "Since we can't fight this kid head-on, then we'll use the inescapable snare formation." The person holding the short stick said, "Even if we use the inescapable snare formation, we might not be able to trap him, right? Then let's use the heaven transformation formation." The few of them spoke very quickly, and it only took a little more than 10 seconds. After Zhou Fu landed, he took a few steps back. The stone slabs under his feet were all broken. Only then did he dissipate the force. 3,000 kilograms? He also heard some of the words on the other side. Blood-changing realm? So someone in the blood-changing realm can hit a force of 3,000 kilograms. But what is bone force? Zhou Fu thought for a moment, then shook his head. "Forget it. Let's beat them down first. The one who survives will talk to me." His figure flashed again, and in a flash, he crossed a distance of dozens of meters. Again, he punched out a huge fist. This time, he increased his strength again. At the same time, he secretly activated his chi and blood, constantly squeezing it toward the blood horse. At this time, the blood horse was surrounded by a red light, and it had already begun to emit light. Seeing Zhou Fu rush up, the 6 people looked at each other and attacked together. Boom, boom, boom. Rings of energy continued to explode. In the smoke and dust, 7 figures flashed rapidly. The 6 people attacked together to force Zhou Fu back. Ding Chuan shouted, "Get ready!" Zhou Fu's heart tightened. Attack! 6 attacks wrapped in clouds and mist of various colors fell. No matter how many times you attack, it's still useless. It's useless. Zhou Fu smashed the attack with a punch. Just as he was about to chase after them, he suddenly felt that the top of his head darkened. His body and mind shook, and his body fell down. His hands and feet alternately bombarded the ground, and with the force of the rebound, he quickly rushed to the other side. When Zhou Fu rushed out of the attack range, he turned around and saw several large nets falling on the ground. This was not an ordinary net. There were many sharp barbs inside. At a glance, one would feel a chill run down their spine. At the same time, a few people with long tubes in their hands walked out of the crowd. One end of the tube, was facing Zhou Fu. Release! Bang! 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 A burst of white smoke rose, and several black streams of water attacked. Zhou Fu turned his feet, and the water streams fell to the ground. Sizzle! Sizzle! A pungent smell filled the air, and the ground was corroding at an extremely fast speed. Zhou Fu's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. How could there be strong acid? Humph! You're quick to dodge. Seeing that their attack had failed, Ding Chuan and the others looked even worse. Brothers, follow me and continue to block. Ding Chuan turned to look at the guards beside him and ordered, Get ready again. Yes. The situation in front of him made Zhou Fu feel suffocated. He originally wanted to use this battle to improve his fighting skills. Who knew that the opponent would use such a deadly weapon? I can't continue. Let's kill. After making up his mind, Zhou Fu suddenly increased his speed. Before the others could react, he was in front of the person holding the short stick. Try this punch. Overturn the sea. Boom! A huge amount of blood rushed to the sky, and a giant beast vaguely appeared. Oh no! The man wielding the rod widened his eyes in shock. His entire body's strength surged into the weapon without any regard for his life, and he brazenly struck out. Boom! This punch from above directly shattered the surrounding floor, and a violent force swept out in all directions. Not bad, you actually took it. The short stick bent and fell to the ground. The person's arms were already broken. White bones pierced through his elbows, and a large amount of blood gushed out. Dong! Dong! Zhou Fu's heart suddenly beat more vigorously. In his body, the blood horse emitted a dazzling light. Then the light trembled and split into two balls of light. The red light slowly faded, and two blood-red ponies appeared. Boom! Suddenly, an even more terrifying aura rose from Zhou Fu's body. Try this punch again. Overturn the sea. Boom! Before the others could come to rescue him, a bloody mist rushed toward them. They were shocked and hurriedly dodged, but their bodies were still stained with blood. Ta-ta-ta, Zhou Fu stepped on clear footsteps and walked toward the 5 people who were frightened. Next, each of you will have a punch. Whether you live or die, it will depend on your fate. The 5 people were shocked. How could they not understand that Zhou Fu had broken through in the middle of the battle? Kill! The violent fist force enveloped them. They looked at each other. If they ran separately, they would definitely die because Zhou Fu's movement was not slower than theirs. If they stayed together, they might have a chance to survive. Kill! Boom! Zhou Fu threw 3 punches in an instant. The first punch scattered the combined attack of the 5 people. The second punch broke the weapons in their hands. With the third punch, the thick blood mist once again spread out. When the smoke and dust dissipated, only Zhou Fu was left standing in the shattered square. Zhou Fu turned to look at the guards who had begun to disperse. He was about to chase after them when the crowd suddenly became chaotic. He tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and rushed over. Mr. Zhou, please show mercy. A middle-aged man shouted and knelt down. Mr. Zhou, Huang Jia is willing to pledge allegiance to you, sir. In the crowd, there were a few guards who were holding a few old men in luxurious clothes and forcing them to kneel. Mr. Zhou, we are willing to pledge allegiance to you, sir. In an instant, everyone knelt down. Chapter 104. Zhou Fu looked at the man kneeling at the front and asked, Give me a reason not to kill you. Before coming here, Zhou Fu had no intention of slaughtering the Huang Jia. His purpose this time was to kill all the guards of the Huang Jia, and then kill a few of the higher-ups to intimidate them. Before leaving, he would take some compensation for the psychological damage to subsidize his daily expenses. Moreover, with his current strength and influence, he couldn't do such a thing. After all, there were hundreds of people in the Huang Jia, and Zhou Fu was only one person. He couldn't split himself, and a large number of people would definitely run away. In this way, it was better to intimidate them and then take some things away. Sir, my name is Huang Mingdao. I'm the second son of the Huang Jia. Huang Mingdao turned around and pointed to the back, where a few old men in luxurious clothes were kneeling. It's them. Under the influence of the Chun family, they did something unfavorable to you. Zhou Fu stretched out his hand and interrupted him. He said, I'm not interested in the cause of this matter. Tell me, why should I let you go? The square suddenly quieted down. Pairs of eyes looked at Huang Mingdao with expectation, desire, and hatred. 1,000,000 taels. Every month. Huang Mingdao suddenly raised his head. As long as you accept the Huang Jia's allegiance, we Huang Jia will give you 1,000,000 taels every month. Also, the warehouse of the Huang Jia will belong to you. Money. This was a good thing, especially for the current Zhou Fu. Seeing that Zhou Fu was silent, Huang Mingdao continued, Sir, you still want to go to the Chun family, right? Let's not talk about other things. The guard of the Huang Jia can help you solve some small problems. This sentence made Zhou Fu's heart move. He thought of the net that fell from the sky just now, and the strong acid that could corrode bricks. Under everyone's gaze, Zhou Fu slowly nodded. I agree. Huang Mingdao and the people behind him shouted excitedly. Thank you, sir. Thank you, my lord. What does Huang Jia do? After fighting for a long time, Zhou Fu still didn't know what Huang Jia was doing. Following Zhou Fu's question, the square once again fell silent. This time, even Huang Mingdao's expression became awkward. You've almost wiped out Huang Jia's entire force, yet you still don't know what Huang Jia is doing. My lord, the Huang Jia's main business is the restaurant. They also do some grain trading. Restaurant? Grain merchant? Zhou Fu's eyes flashed, and he said, Take out a part of the monthly offerings and exchange it for things. Someone will talk to you about the details later. Yes. Now that the Huang Jia had pledged allegiance to Zhou Fu, he wasn't afraid that they would go back on their words. Even if they changed, so what? He could just kill them again. Zhou Fu stood up and said, We'll do as you said just now. Now prepare the men and follow me to the Chun family. Huang Mingdao's heart trembled, and he hurriedly replied, Yes. After giving the order, Zhou Fu turned around and walked outside. At this time, Huang Mingdao turned around and waved at the guards. Then, with a burst of screams, the Huang Jia elders who were escorted here were all beheaded. Zhou Fu, who was walking, naturally heard these sounds. He suddenly thought of Zhou Ji and sighed. Alas, the second branch, outside the Huang Jia's gate, the guards who were waiting outside suddenly became nervous. When they saw that it was Zhou Fu who came out, they relaxed again. However, after seeing the large number of guards behind Zhou Fu, not only were they nervous, they were also terrified. There were so many people in front of them, they couldn't beat them. At this time, a young man in his 20s ran out and respectfully came to Zhou Fu's side. He bowed and said, Sir, my name is Huang Feng. I will follow you to the Chun family. Zhou Fu nodded and pointed to Huang Mingyuan, who was being detained by the Elysium guards. He said, You can deal with this person yourselves. Huang Mingyuan looked at Huang Feng and suddenly widened his eyes. As a former high-ranking member of the Huang Jia, he could roughly guess some things. Therefore, he excitedly twisted his body. Huang Feng quickly nodded, Thank you, sir. He walked over and leaned over to Huang Mingyuan's ear and whispered, Uncle, save your strength. Auntie and big brother haven't gone far. You can see them later. Ugh. 2 lines of tears flowed out from Huang Mingyuan's eyes. His whole body was like a deflated balloon, limp on the ground. He looked completely lifeless. Then, Huang Feng waved his hand. Bring him in. 2 Huang Jia guards walked over and dragged Huang Mingyuan into the Huang residence. Let's go. Following Zhou Fu's order, 70 to 80 people armed with weapons formed a team and set off towards the Qin family. In the carriage, Huang Feng saw Chen Gusi sitting on the ground as soon as he entered. Chen Gusi also saw Huang Feng. Yo, isn't this head shopkeeper Chen? I'm Huang Feng. Greetings, head shopkeeper Chen. Chen Gusi was so shocked that his body began to tremble. You. Huang Feng smiled and said, Don't worry, head shopkeeper Chen. Let's go to the Chen family now. Chen Gusi's body went limp. He closed his eyes and lamented in his heart. The Huang Jia is finished. The Chen family. What should we do? In front of the Chen family. Zhou Fu had just gotten out of the carriage when he saw a man standing in front of the gate. He looked somewhat arrogant and looked at Zhou Fu with a sense of ridicule. Did he come prepared? Or was there some kind of trap? Zhou Fu frowned. That man's gaze made him very uncomfortable. He made up his mind. Who cares? I'll beat him up first. After making up his mind, Zhou Fu stamped his feet and suddenly rushed out. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of that man. That man was suddenly shocked. The expression on his face was no longer the same as before. Stop! In the man's frightened eyes, a fist imprinted on his chest. Bang! There was a huge explosion. That man was directly sent flying. He crashed through the gate and smashed into the courtyard. After killing that man, Zhou Fu looked around and found that there were only a few frightened servants in the courtyard. He walked forward, stretched out his hand, and pulled down the gate. Let me see what you're hiding in this courtyard. Woo-woo, the low sound of the wind was heard. The two wide doorboards were swung up by Zhou Fu and smashed into the depths of the courtyard. Boom, boom. Accompanied by two loud sounds, smoke and dust rose into the air. There were also bursts of screams. Everything that happened in front of him made Zhou Fu confused. The ambush that he imagined did not appear. Moreover, the way of dealing with it was not as good as Huang Jia's. Huang Feng led the people of Huang Jia to Zhou Fu's back. Looking at the horrible scene in front of them, everyone's heart skipped a beat. One must know that an hour ago, they were still enemies. Sir, let us search this courtyard. Please take a rest first. After saying that, Huang Feng waved his hand. The guards were divided into small teams of 5 people and rushed in quickly. As information came in one after another, Zhou Fu nodded with satisfaction. He decided in his heart that in the future, when fighting, he must bring his underlings. At least it would save him a lot of effort. Sir, there are only some servants of the Chun family in the front yard. There are also a few guards. We have already taken them down. More than a dozen people were pushed in front of Zhou Fu. Kneel down. After a series of punches and kicks, the servants and guards of the Chun family all knelt down. Zhou Fu waved his hand casually. Let them lead the way. Find all the high-ranking members of the Chun family. Yes, sir. A group of Huang Jia's guards grinned and looked at the Chun family servants who were curled up like quails.